pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We have 6:30. We're doing informal discussions, zoning bylaw updates. I want to start with the accessory apartment bylaw. The building department has some issues with it.
Well, it didn't really, there were a lot of things that conflicted with it, so we met with Ed a couple months ago and went over some of the issues, and then we brought those changes to the zoning board and had them have some discussions. And so based on the discussion we had with Ed and the meeting with the zoning board, we just sort of redrafted it. One of the biggest issues was that this new bylaw eliminated the whole old bylaw, and we found that the interest is people, I haven't gotten any applications for somebody that wants to rent part of their house out there, all true in-law apartments. And with the new bylaw, it adds a lot of extra expense to people who truly want an in-law, because under Title V, it's considered to be two separate dwelling units, so you have to have a two-compartment tank or tanks in series, so it's an extra expense on the septic, and then the second means of egress and the fire separation. So what we did was we drafted it up as three different definitions. One that's, we called it a dependent dwelling unit, so an in-law or for a caretaker, but it's still retaining that single-family status and the communicating door that Roland always liked to have. And then, because it's still considered single-family, they don't need to do that 1,500-gallon two-compartment tank if their septic system's adequate. And then we did the accessory apartment, was pretty much what you guys had proposed. We had a couple little tweaks to it, because the main thing was you had the, it couldn't exceed 40%, but section 17353 is for accessory uses and you can't exceed 30%. So they kind of conflicted each other. So we just said go by 17353, or, which is the 30%, which, we thought we crunched some numbers and it seemed to work on most of them. And then we did a separate definition for the detached. So that could be either an in-law situation or a rental situation. And same thing, because it's not attached to the house, it would have to comply with that two-compartment tank and the two means of egress and that. So we just sort of revamped it, and then came up with the three definitions for the three different uses. And then the other thing that we didn't know if you wanted to look into or consider was that there's, in the town code, they have that one section that you can only have one dwelling per lot. And with allowing the living unit in a detached structure, that conflicts with that. So we didn't know if you wanted to look into either changing that or putting some sort of condition that that doesn't apply to this detached structure. And then one of the comments that the zoning board had, they just felt it was really important for the abutters to have a notice of what's going on and have that special permit hearing so that they're aware of what's happening in their neighborhood. That was why we put these all in as special permits. And then they would all be renewed, like under the old bylaw, the certificate of occupancy every 3 years, or at the change of ownership. And we just said at that point, you don't have to go back and get another special permit, just every 3 years you renew, or if you sell it, you renew and that special permit stays in effect. So those were just some suggestions that we had, so we just wanted you to take a look. And, we kind of, the feedback from people was that they really truly wanted to just be able to have in-laws in their house, and that new bylaw, just didn't allow it without a lot of extra expense.
So it makes it a little more user-friendly.
So, in the discussions that I've had with Shelley and Roland, I think this discussion that we're having now makes a lot of sense, going back to the original accessory use bylaw as an add-on to what we've already approved. I liked 99.9% of what you said. The only one that I would have concern about is the 3-year look back. I think it's fine with the reinstatement of the old accessory use bylaw, but for the other ones, we did do those by right for a reason, that we didn't want to have them re-inspected. Yeah, the special permit is a special permit, and it's in perpetuity with the property unless somebody wants to remove it. So,
Right.
outside of that, I think everything that you brought up is
And
spot on.
so the only thing I'd say to that is maybe just stay consistent, so just do them all as through the building permit process, or just, because I think if we reinstitute that in-law one, and they're gonna say, well, I can rent it out, and I don't have to get a special permit, but I want my mom to live there, and I do, so maybe just be consistent with all three, and just say it's a by right, and they just have to meet the criteria through the building permit. It's, for me,
Well, you're the zoning enforcement. So what I'm thinking, what I'm picturing, what I'm seeing is that if you don't have that look back and that in-law, the true in-law, exists without the fire separation, the 2-compartment
Right.
tank, that might become an illegal apartment.
When did it become a 2-compartment tank?
That's a
That's
title. That's a
Title V.
Title V Board of Health issue. I don't know any of those regs, so I wouldn't. I just know that Shelley mentioned it. So, Shelley, for the record, I know we didn't start that way. You are.
I am Michelle Cobley, the Assistant Zoning Officer. And
Thank you.
Roland had to leave because it was raining and
And
he
he
had
was
his
on the
motorcycle.
I think he planned it.
I do too, he always manages to do this. Yeah, and then we just wanted to be able to have a good tracking process for the different types, because with all the housing surveys and the subsidized housing and all that, we just want to be able to track where the in-laws are, where the rentals are, and that, so,
Apologize, I left for a second through the chair.
Right.
Woohoo, how do you like that one?
Wow.
I don't know. Is this going back to where it says a blood relative or something like that? Is that what you're trying to go back to? And it's interpretation of who's on the board at the time is whether or not somebody can have an accessory dwelling that has to be a blood relative? Is that, if it's
Well,
going
that's-
back to that again?
No, I think it's going to be through the building department. But the question really is, so the accessory use apartment by right is still going to be on the books as a bylaw. Which, what they're talking about is also doing, give me the name that you guys created for it.
we're calling it accessory dependent dwelling unit. So it, and we just kind of expanded on that old definition to say one or more persons related by blood or marriage or functionally dependent for medical or other reasons. So it doesn't limit it anymore to just a family member. It is a caretaker or a,
It eliminates the cost.
But, the same thing is we're getting into the same issue as why we tried to change this in the first place. Is that if you have such an event, if you have a house, and in particular, I have an accessory dwelling on my house. I have a 2-bedroom, everything is legal, the parking, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. If it turns out that, in my case, my mother's passed away. So now what do I do with that 2-bedroom apartment? I do have, my taxes have also gone up, 500% in the last 15 years. I gotta come up with another $1,000 a month just to pay the taxes. Or I could rent it out, I can stay in my house. And one lady also made a statement about, well, you're in a 4-bedroom house. You live alone, you and your wife or whatever. Why don't you move into the apartment and rent out the apartment or the house? Get more money, Well, truthfully, I understand that. And it doesn't pick which side is dependent on the other. It says one on the other. And it's functionally dependent. At the time, I had a nanny. They said, oh, nanny's not part of the functioning of your family. She most certainly was. She got up in the morning. See, it's too much interpretation of the board. That's why I didn't like that part of it. I think it should be a right, if you build one and you have it for the reason, for both added income for the elderly can stay in their house, and rent it out to a non-blood relative. And I think, is that a functional dependent? I can't afford to stay here. Now, if I move out of my house and it's just me living alone, who's moving in? A family with 3 and 4 or 5 kids or whatever. That's a burden on the tax system.
So, if I may, Peter, the bylaw that we proposed remains in effect. They're not changing that at all. They're giving you another option. And I think it's a good option because it lowers the cost of establishing a dwelling in your existing structure or even a detached structure, so that you don't have to do the 2-compartment tank and you don't have to do the fire separation. You don't have to do the expense of creating an actual second unit. You can have the adjoining door that remains in place.
This is not taking the place.
No, it's an add-on too.
It's an added to. I don't have to jump through hoops to get this one.
Well, so we had created a checklist in the beginning for when this, I'm just gonna call it in-law, just because that's essentially what it was. When that was eliminated, so through the building department, we created a checklist of what you needed to do to convert the in-law into this new accessory apartment, and that was the second means of egress, the fire separation, and meet Title V.
Just because it's in my head. I had to have a second means of egress when I built it 30 years ago.
Right, and a lot of them
So-
do, but we're just saying that in order to go from that, say, you that had your in-law now wants to make it a rental, that would be just building permit process, the criteria you have to meet. And they'll still be able to do that, people that have the in-law and then down the road want to change it. And what we're suggesting, if they're, especially if they're constructing it now, just do it now, so that when you want to rent it out, it's just a matter of doing it.
And it can be rented to a non-blood relative.
Yes, yes,
and you
that
can-
all stays the same, that accessory
It's gonna make it easier
that
for
you
the
have
client.
done.
All right, well,
We're just
again,
adding another level to try to, because what we found is in the past year, everybody that's come in, it has been a true in-law situation,
Right.
and they were having to spend all this extra money.
Yeah, I had that conversation
Yeah.
about putting a firewall in between one room and
Right.
another room,
Right,
and where do you make that separation?
right.
Okay, again, I jumped out, and maybe I missed that portion of it, but this isn't a vote thing right now.
No, this is
So,
an
for
informal
discussion.
It's gonna have to come back before us and
And-
have a formal hearing on it.
Right, and in the long run, it has to be, is this another thing that goes to town
Go to
vote?
town meeting for vote.
Which will make it
So,
hopefully easier, is what you're saying to me. All right, I didn't get a chance to read it, I'm not I am computer illiterate.
all right,
And I'm still
so
looking at all this, how do I get
So
to
wait,
where I
you're-
gotta go next?
you're good with it to proceed forward, and we'll schedule it in
For the September meeting?
September meeting?
Okay, just one question on direction, whether or not you want all the applications to go for special permit to the zoning board of appeals, or if you'd rather them be by right, and then any exceptions, any variances would go to the appeals board. So-
I would say by right, and then the exceptions go to the appeal board, that gives them still the power on the ones that may be suspect. So it gives people another avenue if they get refused by the building department.
What do you think?
Well, I think we did the other ones by right for a reason, and I think the one that's being proposed, if that one goes in front of the ZBA, then it gets documented and it also has a 3-year look back, so I think
Which
that
would
would,
mean the one.
So,
the one we were just discussing, the original
Dependent?
accessory, the dependent, thank you.
okay.
That's,
So you'd want the dependent to go for a special permit from, so an accessory apartment would be by right.
As
And
it's
then,
written.
right, and then the third category is the detached. So right now, that has to go to ZBA for a special permit. Do you want that to continue, or would you want that one to be by right, if it meets the other criteria? Just for how you want it to, town council to draft it, so it comes
Right.
to you for the public hearing.
in my opinion, would be by right, because makes it less cumbersome for the applicant.
I'd like to, through the chair, I'd like to suggest that one be by special permit, because what happens a lot to us is that we have barn structures or garage structures that really are bigger than the house. And I think it's up to the neighbors we want to hear from the neighbors, whether that's going to impinge on the character of the neighborhood or whatever. So the detached becomes, I think, an issue. You end up with what might be 2 buildings, 2 houses on one lot, and they'll sneak that in the back door.
But you still have the
The
1,200 square foot.
Right, we talked about reducing it from the 40% to the 30%, which
How will you know? I mean, how will you know that
in
they're
the
adding on?
application,
or
you still
something?
gotta get a building permit.
They've got a building permit, but you really won't know whether they've added space afterwards through any kind of a resale project.
Well, if they do that, they're violating the building code.
They do that all the time.
I know.
But if you have a special permit and it reads 1,200, then the next person selling the property and the next person buying are on notice that the extra bedroom that was snuck in may not have been approved. That's all.
But they'll find, I'm sorry.
And that's,
So,
it's
in my
a
opinion,
policy
in my
decision.
opinion, as also a local building inspector, that it's usually discovered by the land use attorney, the real estate attorney, or the realtor, when they go through the street jacket and look through the file. But, hey, there's a bedroom there that shouldn't have been there, and how did they get there? And all of a sudden, it's not permitted, and we know the drill, they all come in scrambling, hey, how can I get this inspected? And you can't take it out, so.
Why don't we hold off until we actually
It
have a public
happens a
hearing on
lot.
that?
So
I
which way would
can't-
you like it to be drafted?
I think it ought to be by right.
Before the public hearing?
I kind
I
of
mean, you can
agree.
change it at any
I kind
time.
of agree with Sherry that it needs to be a special
So that would be-
permit, so somebody has a second look at it, because it is two structures on one lot.
But we have a building department.
You're talking about the detached, right?
May I?
Yes, right.
Yes.
So if there were two structures originally on the property with an old barn,
Name, please.
oh, I'm sorry, Matthew Field. If there were two structures, we developed a piece of property in Manchester that was built quite a while ago with two structures on it, and separate electricity. By right, don't you have the right to build two structures on that property or convert them both to residential if they were built prior to
Not
19...
Just because they had service to them?
If they were built prior to 1953?
51, but.
Is that correct?
If I can input, the case law says you have an absolute right to subdivide that lot into as many lots as there are structures pre-existing zoning that, but it does not say you can then obtain building permits to alter or change the structures on the lot. So one of the hurdles we run into is, yeah, you could have gotten 2 lots out of it, but that doesn't mean you get a building permit for both lots. Because then you wouldn't comply with zoning and you'd need variances. So, I don't,
Okay, so,
Mr. Crowley.
Through the chair, I'd like to make a suggestion that we make this by right, because you'll have, even though in the past, people have gotten away with it, the buyers today are much more savvy. Since 2008, every buy-in houses has completely changed. The buyers are savvy, the banks are savvy, the realtors are savvy, and what you're talking about is in most cases, will be a garage that's got a missing breezeway. And in order to overcome this issue, they just are going to add a breezeway, and then they're going to be able to do it by right anyway. So I suggest this be by right. Makes it much simpler, straightforward.
Does anyone care?
So I would say, if I may, through the chair, and I would, Mara and I would ask them to draft it as a by right.
Fine, we can discuss it.
Actually, can you draft it both ways so we can read it?
Not cost too much money.
let me see what,
Talk to town council.
I will
Doesn't matter.
certainly ask.
Like I said, one way, it doesn't really matter. Okay,
It would be good to see the differences.
all right, so we'll put you on for the 13th.
Okay.
The First.
And then the other thing, and I'm just gonna leave it, this was the home occupation section that, we were looking to expand a little bit on that definition, because there's a lot of businesses that are exceeding what they're allowed to do, and so, we talked to Sherry about this, and I'll leave it with you, and you can review it, and we can talk about it more, but the highlighted is what we're suggesting as an expansion, to just allow a little bit more than what's allowed now, but still try to keep it as small businesses. Primarily, it's landscapers, painters, plumbers, that type of thing.
Could bring their truck.
Might have more than one truck, and under the current one, you're only allowed the one employee and one truck. So it just expands a little bit, but it's still focusing on the small businessmen being there. So I'll just leave these with Mara and we can look them over.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll get that and we'll post the time on the 13th.
Yeah, and I think what's important about this is the accessory apartment bylaw's been on the books for just over a year now, and the building department's been working with people on, you know, what their needs are. And this is in response to what they've heard. So I'm very excited about this process.
Great. Okay, next we have is the Senior Residential Development Bylaw. I asked Martin to put this on because there's some general issues we need to discuss about it and the potential of planning some time in the future to kind of tighten up or tweak the bylaw, so to speak. First issue before us, and from a general standpoint, is how do we want to approach the waivers for the bylaw? Both developers that are before us right now are asking for a waiver, and I don't want to get into specifics of it, I just want to talk to the board how they feel about the potential of starting to issue waivers for, do we want to go down that road?
Well, senior, in my opinion, a senior residential development is a special permit.
Okay,
And a special permit, and it allows us to grant waivers.
not necessarily. What waiver would you grant in senior residential? The underlying subdivision control law is the waivers that are being requested, not the senior residential bylaw. That bylaw sits on top of subdivision control law.
Right.
And
Through a
that's-
special permit, and a special permit, you're allowed to grant waivers.
I don't say anywhere that you're allowed to grant waivers. It says it's a different thing, it has different criteria and things like that. What I'm asking the board is to kind of weigh in whether or not you want to start offering waivers to build subdivisions in the town of Littleton. And that's what basically this boils down to in a nutshell. So. Okay? Of any kind, I'm not talking specifically of all the waivers. Do we want to, are we, and I granted, I
We should
understand.
hear every proposal on its merits, and any request that comes before us, we should consider it, and if we don't want to grant the waiver, we don't. If we do, we do.
You want to just take it on a case by case? You don't want to discuss whether or not,
Everything should stand on its merits, right, when it comes in, and we talk about it, and if it makes sense to grant the waiver because we're gonna get more density, more affordability, more whatever that benefits the town, you know, they're gonna put in a bike path from their development all the way to downtown or to the train station, you know, they're offering to subsidize something like that, and they're asking for a waiver from one entrance, I would certainly grant it.
what do you think, Anna?
I tend to agree in the sense that blanketing for no waivers anytime is pretty black and white, and we don't know what is going to come up, but I do think that for every decision that we have before us, we need to make sure that we're really understanding what granting a waiver would do in terms of setting precedent.
Correct.
So,
That's my point, setting precedent. If for 50, 60 years we haven't been granting waivers, why all of a sudden? There has to be a compelling reason to do it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peter,
Yes,
what do you think?
I do.
Well, that's good.
Oh, you want a real answer?
Sure, in the
Well,
3 minutes we have
it's-
left.
In the minimalist, I believe that if a project is without question good for the town, then permits, you know, something can be waived. But, you know, a bike path for something is, you know, it's gotta be damned well. Something that's really gonna help our elderly for me to.
Or anything else, not just the senior residential, anyway,
Well, yeah, any waiver whatsoever. If it doesn't benefit the town in a great way, I see no reason to grant waivers. It's gotta be a benefit to the town.
Okay,
That's simplistic.
okay. And what about setting some time in September or October so that we can try to get some more language and better language into the bylaw for town meeting in November?
On that
Well-
note, if I may, Mr. Chair, what is it that we want to change in the bylaw?
Well, I think there's a lot of
Do
things.
you want to have a working group and discuss what it is that you think
Yes.
we should change? Because in my opinion, you know, there's an opportunity to negotiate, but to change a bylaw that we worked so hard on with a consultant and got approved by well over a 2/3 vote. We're gonna go back and try to amend it to do what?
To be more town-friendly than the other way. The old bylaw had 25% affordability, the new bylaw only gets 10. Why? We're giving more density, and yet we're getting less affordability out of it. Maybe we should look at that. We start there.
So, problem is we would need draft warrant articles by, the warrant closes in September 14th, so, and selectmen are gonna complete insertion by September 10th, so.
So can we hold a spot, or do we have to actually have the word?
So
You
on
need-
that note, let's just, so I can say for the record, is that even if we went into a working session and created an amendment to the bylaw to say, go from 10 to 20 or 25% affordable, right? Any of the applications that are before us now
I didn't say
still
they would
still
change.
hold their place. I just want
I
it,
get
I want
that.
it in the
I
public,
get
that they
that.
under,
I'm
I
just-
know you get it. I'm just stating it for the record.
Grandfathering.
That they are grandfathered under the original bylaw, so.
Okay. I'm just saying,
We have definitive plans given to us already for this?
It's an application that holds their spot.
so can they hold the spot, or do they need they need it done by the 14th, the 13th?
Well, you need to have it done by your public hearing, and they need most of the language by the middle of September. And then the public hearing would be first meeting in October, which is the, 3rd or 6th, whatever that first
Yep.
week is. They're cutting it close if we don't have wording already.
So Board of Selectmen meet again on the 20th,
So
August 20th. So it would have to be sometime between the
Between now and
20th
then.
and then Monday, September 10th, to have them done.
Right.
Well, it sounds
And
like the
then-
wording
then-
isn't drastic, so, I mean, what we're trying to do is, and again, does it hurt to tweak it some? I don't think it does. You know, you've been paying for a whole life, for 10 years, and somebody shows you term, half the money and all the benefits, why wouldn't you change? Just because we worked, and we did work hard on it, doesn't mean you can't make it better.
That's my
All right, so it's not, I don't look at it as a step backwards or even a step forward so much. It's a step in the right direction is what I think it could be. That's my opinion.
Do you want to, there are a couple ways to get to some new wording. I don't have any direction at the moment. So how would you like to move forward?
I just need to figure out time-wise, how do we do it and stay focused and keep going forward? Do we have to have another meeting? Do we need to put an outline together? And
But that's up to you guys.
I'm just
How would you
try-
like to approach?
what's the drop dead date we need to have actual language?
September,
October?
10th.
Why don't you
The
take
warrant is
the,
posted by the 25th of September. That's the drop dead date.
September 10th.
Yeah.
So then why don't we schedule
then-
time on the 13th? We'll schedule an hour of our time, and we'll work on it on the 13th
13th
Okay,
of,
so you,
September.
I would actually propose that we meet late August.
I would love to do that. If everybody wants to meet late August, why don't we meet late August?
who's everybody? You got a mouse in your pocket?
Can you meet?
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe from Peter is a yes. So why don't we meet late August? This is board discussion. I'm not really, we're just talking about meeting and discussing the agenda. I'm not really interested in taking input at this point. Just want to talk amongst the board. We're not talking specifics or anything else like that. We're just talking in general. What date?
let's see, 2 weeks is the 16th, 3 weeks is the 23rd, 4 weeks is the 30th. Any of those?
Six.
Do it in 2 weeks.
I'm
Please.
not available.
2 weeks is still the
Available
fine.
So 3 weeks then?
23rd?
On the 23rd?
What's wrong with 2 weeks?
I'm
Yeah,
not
that's-
I'm not available.
Let's do the 23rd then. Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll make it more likely to get through the
That's 3
discussion and get some more.
Well, I'm unavailable in 3 weeks.
23rd, okay, 30th?
Let's do it in 4 then.
The 30th?
Sure.
Everybody
Let me
good?
make sure. What's the date again? Let me look at
Thursday,
my
the
calendar.
30th.
Or the 23rd?
Twenty-third? Oh, I had it down as the 32nd. Yeah, okay.
23rd is still good?
Sure.
Why don't we do it on the 23rd?
23rd?
So,
Great, we'll do.
6:30? Is that good? Okay. All right. Last but not least, adult use marijuana bylaw.
The selectmen will be discussing it at their meeting on August 13th. I haven't gotten any input from them on what revisions they're looking for, so they've invited you to their meeting on the 13th.
Be nice to have a heads up. Does anybody from the select committee want to give us a heads up on what they're thinking about on the
This is the same thing we talked about last, they're talking about what you want to do about the zoning of it.
I don't know, this is the bylaw for adult use marijuana bylaw, so
What I
that was
remem-
just for sales.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
What I recall from the selectmen's meeting was the question as to whether or not we wanted to be more selective about the applicants or whether we just wanted to take them on a first-come, first-served basis.
Well, that wouldn't require a zoning bylaw change.
Wouldn't it
No, I
all?
think they're
So-
talking about where to, if you want
You
to,
mean where to cite it?
So-
Oh, okay.
So that's,
But I thought that was what was already
Right.
on this map.
Well, the map is the retail areas. The citing of grow facilities or anything industrial A and industrial B.
right, we're talking about growing it now, other than medical marijuana.
right, so,
Right.
so we have a
So-
medical facility in town. If we were to change, I mean, to allow adult use growing, or, you know, then if the facility that we've already approved can grow medical, and they have the size where they can expand and grow adult use, then that would make sense to me.
I get that, but. I
But they
think
don't need a
that-
change in the zoning bylaw to do,
Right,
to
that's
allow
what I
that.
mean.
What they
So-
want to talk about is if somebody else wants to come in and grow.
We have to allow 2 adult use retail spaces. I don't know that,
There's no limit on the number of growing facilities
I think
for,
that's what they want to talk about, I think. I mean, we don't know.
okay, yeah, that's right, we don't know.
Okay.
So anyway, been invited to the meeting of August 13th.
if we can get an update before that, just so we can have some input
Mhm.
prepared for them, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll ask again.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. So,
I got it down.
650, we have a site plan, Harvard Road, site plan modification for the very fine site.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What do we do?
So if you remember, they went through and did the, you granted a height special permit, I think in May, if I recall, and then they're coming back now with some additional information about the facility.
Okay, so yeah, when last we left, we were talking, Peter brought up the noise was one thing you brought up.
And the site lighting.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you give us a synopsis of what's changed since then?
Okay. First of all, this is Jeff Manning from AKF Engineers. The last representative from AKF was Rob Cunningham, who couldn't make it tonight, so he is stand-in tonight.
Good evening.
So, yes, there were one primary topic, which was the site plan review, and then there was 2 secondary, which was the site lighting and what we were doing as far as improving the site lighting, and then the acoustics and the noise potential of the site. So as far as the site goes, nothing's really changed necessarily. We are still focused on 2 areas. Area to the northwest, which is basically a silo pad, which is very near the MBTA tracks and the rail spur. And then in the front, we have 2 pads that were being poured for transformers, and we have screening on the street. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that one, but basically those are still the 2 areas that are being improved on the site. If you have any other questions beyond that. We're really not changing anything else beyond what we're doing with the MBTA and the new rail siding. But that's a whole separate thing.
Board have any questions?
So I reviewed the submittal for the lights, and, you know, they seem appropriate to me, what I saw. And typically
Have the
it's-
coolers been up and running as of yet?
Not yet. They are on site. Their air handlers are on site. And as far as the mitigation for the noise, we've hired Accentec acoustical engineers. They do a survey, is it next week? Or
They start
Next week.
measuring next week, and we anticipate a study and a report to follow.
Can we have somebody that witnesses these things when they go on or no?
Not usually, no.
You want to bring Green in to have them?
No, we got neighbors. Let them, if it's running loud, we'll have you.
We have taken steps to mitigate the noise.
All right.
So,
Are there any of those neighbors here, if I may ask? No? Okay.
Could you give us an example, just so
Yes.
somebody asks us, we can say, hey, this is what they've done?
yeah, we relocated 2 large horsepower resin blow motors that are going to be used to move the resin from the silos into the building. They were originally going to be on site. We moved them into the building and are incorporating sound mitigation into the heat exhaust just to mitigate. So basically, they were going to be pretty adjacent to the property line. Now they're within the building. With doing that, we're going to mitigate a lot of that noise.
Okay, awesome, thank you for that.
So,
You told us in the beginning that they didn't make much noise to begin with.
Well, now they're going to make even less.
All right, good answer.
Well,
It just
Just checking.
it's just
one of
with
many
the
things,
with the
so.
with the proximity to the property line. I mean,
I'm sorry, Ann, I didn't.
that's okay. So when can we expect the study to be completed with the report back to us?
what I've been told is I think it's within 2 weeks. So
They have to, I think they have to have
The study first,
equipment
right?
up and running because the levels are
Right.
taken from the property line. And we can extrapolate what that decibel level might be, but until and unless you get the actual equipment running, that's really the proof. And that's kind of what we're working towards right now, is
Right.
getting everything in place, commissioned, up and running, and then we'll take the levels from the property line, which I
And
think is...
verify it.
And verify it from there, yeah.
And then, from our perspective, then Accentec's report gets reviewed by our engineers? Is that typically what happens?
No, we can
No, go to
review it,
the
it'll
building
give us the
department.
information.
So just,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. As far as the site lighting goes, we have cut sheets here of what's been approved, the submittal from the contractor. We're replacing all of the site lighting in the back from a fixture that basically spread the light out to one that's very energy efficient and also points the light more in a downward fashion, so you don't get that light pollution off to the edges of the site. If you want to.
yeah, the new lights are full cutoff. Replacing Cobra heads, which just throw out a blob of light. So, and the color temperature is 300K, which is pretty low for site lighting. Pretty closer to incandescent. You won't see the. I think right now it's high pressure sodium, so it's yellow.
Right.
So it'll be an improvement for the site. A lot less.
I reviewed that submittal as well.
A lot less pollution as well.
Okay.
Dark sky friendly.
Yes.
Anything else? Board have any other questions? Good? Great. Thank you. We'll get your report in a couple of weeks, and hopefully that'll be the end of it.
Yes, you will. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Are those cut sheets?
Yeah, that was what was submitted and approved. This is what I sent you electronically,
Yeah, great.
but you have that.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, thank you again.
Okay, we have a 7 o'clock. Continue public hearing, senior residential housing development, special permit, Aquifer Water Resource District.
Yeah, do you want to take a break?
Take a what?
Sorry, you have 3 members here for that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Has she missed one before, or is this?
Well,
I know the problem is we only have 3 people.
Let me go get my phone and,
I don't
unless you have a,
What are you doing?
Trying to find out where Jamie is.
These guys have it up on that. Want to sit on this side so I can hear you? I'm deaf.
Okay.
Oh. Is that all right, Mark?
it seems to work.
Yeah.
We'll wait a few minutes to hear. If you don't mind hanging on for a minute.
I do not mind waiting. Mr. Montanari, may I ask a question about the previous discussion? Or would you rather not?
It was just a generic discussion
I
about.
understand.
No. That's all right, so Jamie's not gonna be here, so. You only have three. You really need, you have to have four.
Can you jump in?
Nope.
Is there gonna be any votes?
I don't believe we're gonna vote on anything.
Then let's just still discuss it, and try to get some more.
Some more feedback from the board.
Right, and Jamie has not missed one of these public hearings yet,
She
so
can
she could
modernize.
rejoin, right.
Get
Okay,
at herself?
okay.
All right, see you, boys.
Don't go too far. Okay, so we'll continue then. We'll start. Do you wanna do you have any new information, or?
Well, we went to the Board of Health meeting, and I believe that they presented some new information to you that kind of shut us down for discussions in the last meeting. Is that correct? Which they agreed that we have to meet Title V.
Okay.
Which was what you were proposing all along. right?
Correct. Slide over. There we go.
So we do meet Title V.
We do meet Title V.
Right.
Yeah, so there were new comments yesterday from Board of Health. So the 3 points, the proposal must comply with Title V, and their Board of Health is worried about Mill Pond and drinking water supply, and the Board of Health is looking to do a technical review as part of their review process.
If they reserve the right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So
So,
when we're just
And I think you and I discussed the issue on Title V. It has to do with the senior residential development bylaw does not require an age restriction. And DHCD now has a policy that affordable units that are age restricted probably will not count toward the subsidized housing inventory. So there's some discussion to have there about the design of about the septic flow and how that impacts the project from your point of view, but it's pretty much an engineering issue and on how they want to design the project.
okay.
So we've designed the project at 110 gallons per bedroom with no variances.
Right.
110 gallons per bedroom, so
Per bedroom.
two-bedroom be
220.
220,
Correct.
which meets regular Title V,
It meets
Correct,
Title V
correct.
regulations.
not with an age restriction, just
No.
regular Title V.
None.
Age restriction would be 150 gallons per day for two bedrooms, so this is straight Title V design.
I'm sorry, this is our engineer, Ann Dillis,
I'm just filling in for Greg Roy, who's on vacation.
and our attorney is absent tonight too. She had a family emergency.
I hope everything's okay.
Why I'm sitting here.
So we're at the point of peer review. So.
I would like to bring Maren in a check for a peer review.
Well, my theory, you need 4 out of 4 votes for this.
Correct.
So I wanted to discuss merits of your project before I spend any of your money.
Correct.
I think it makes
And I
more-
thank you.
I think it makes more sense to discuss among the board whether we like this, whether there's issues that we want to address about it before we start sending it to the engineers to take a look at and everybody else that we're going to send it to. So that's why I wanted to discuss it amongst the board. So I want to talk, I'll open up to any areas that you guys want to talk about now and decide at the end of it whether we want to proceed or how we want to approach it.
Well, so I think in the peer review process, we also have somebody lined up, not just through the engineers, but also for the technical side of things, to make sure that it's beneficial to the town through all the other requirements of the senior residential development bylaw. So I think moving it forward, we also get that opinion back to us. I'm not saying we move it forward tonight, I'm just saying that once we move forward, we're also entitled to not just the peer review of the engineer, but also of the technical specialist, meeting all the other requirements of the bylaw. So when we do move it forward, we'll get that information as well. I also think that, discussing what we're hearing in the public, from our constituents is important for them to know that, even again tonight before the meeting started, I heard, one person say, I really think it should be, a senior, saying it should really be first floor. The second floor is difficult and dangerous for seniors. So I just want to share what we're hearing.
That's okay.
So,
That's what I'm talking about.
so in that aspect, I know you guys are showing 2 bedrooms, 1 up, 1 down. I want to make you aware of what we're hearing, so.
Well, I had invited one of the selectmen out, Cindy, to our project, and she had gone through the floor plan that we're building on Cooper, which is this floor plan. And maybe if she had some comments to you, she seemed to like it. And if she, negatives, positives?
No. If I may, Cindy Napoli, Board of Selectmen. I liked the layout personally. I know you have concerns for it to be conducive to senior living. But honestly, with the way the layout is structured, there's certainly plenty of first floor living. And certainly a lot of seniors still do go upstairs. I mean, ideally it would be first floor, single floor living, but it's cheaper to build up, which everybody knows. Personally, I don't see any problem with it, and I think it would be fine for some seniors. Other seniors, it's not gonna work for them, but that's the way the bylaw is written, the way it is, and not everything fits for different people have different needs. It'd be great for, if family comes to visit, there's plenty of space for them. The first floor layout it's open, it's handicap accessible. I didn't see any problem with it, from my perspective and from the seniors I've talked to. So you might hear from a senior that it might not be ideal for them, but for other seniors it might be fine, so.
Thank you. Anna,
Well, I think in general, for the application for this particular site on King Street, we've gone through multitude of different changes that have been recommended, and concerns, I think, are still out there about open space and, what's that actually going to be used for, concerns in terms of egress out of that particular area onto King Street. I think that the other element of this is, as you said, hearing from people directly about what it is that they want or don't want in a home. And then third, the subdivision land regulations, taking a look at that item about any development with greater than 20 homes needing 2 forms of egress. I think that's still out there as being a concern, especially given how tight everything is going to be inside of there. So I would say that that stands pretty important. And having read the comments from the COA, indicating the seniors have a higher rate of use for emergency vehicles, and they asked, is a one-way appropriate here? And so, again, having only the one form of egress would be potentially concerning.
okay. to kind of build off of yours, we had the video done by the residents, the seniors, who wanted to make us aware of what their concerns were and what they wanted. And I think you're the one who brought up the fact that 4 out of 5 people on that wanted single-story, like single-floor living. The lady that you were talking about this afternoon, who was here just before the meeting, brought up the fact that sometimes the second person in the house, either the husband or the wife, is actually the caregiver, and if they don't sleep together and they have to sleep somewhere else, they're upstairs. It's definitely an issue. The other issue is the price point. I still think when we started this bylaw, when we started down this road, we talked about higher density to bring the prices down. We're still starting at $350. By the time we're done with this, we're gonna be at $400,000 for a 2-bedroom condominium.
You can't sell them for that, Mark. You can't. It's all driven by
Price per
square foot price through the bank appraisal.
I'm just saying.
And Littleton is it's easy math to figure out.
I tend to disagree with you. My point is.
How much does it cost to build one of those units?
$300 a square foot.
They're how big are they?
Let's go backwards then. You've got 4 acres. You're gonna have, for all intents and
This
purposes.
shouldn't be part of the equation.
I get it. I'm just saying that I think it's too
Talking about.
expensive. I think it's too expensive. That's
Then
my.
you should amend the bylaw and go right back to mobile home parks, because that's gonna be the most affordable thing for seniors to do.
And I think seniors would be, I don't think seniors want to leave their
Then we
houses.
should do that.
Hold up, Mike.
I think seniors want to leave their house, want to make a few dollars and go to something smaller, something less.
Then they're going to surely err. They're going points west because they can't afford to do a move to make money in
A single
Littleton
floor
without one of
unit.
these types of units. They can't. Not everybody is selling a $400,000 house, Mark.
That's my, so all they're doing is swapping one for the other, and they're not,
And they're not having to lose their sphere of influence or their house of worship or their friends in the town of Littleton.
I just
Or
think,
maintenance, or,
one of my concerns is that it's still, you're maximizing the lot, you have 24
No,
units.
we could have 30 per the bylaw.
You couldn't fit 30, you don't have this open space for it. You're lucky. I still don't think that the open space that you show there is really open space. You have little slivers all around it that you're counting as open space.
We meet the bylaw.
It's not contiguous, usable open space as far
It's
as
contiguous.
It might be contiguous, but it's not usable in good open space. I haven't.
Per
You
your,
have to walk through a leaching field to get to your open space.
no, you don't.
you can go
Oh, you have
around it.
little pieces on either side of it.
But that's,
but
that's
the
40,
point-
that's 40 feet, that's not little pieces.
You don't have second means of egress as well.
This is the very first time that has even come up.
That came up last month. That was the issue last month. You didn't ask for the waiver for it, but we're telling you that it's an issue. You need 2 means of egress. When you have 20 more lots or houses, you need a second means of egress. It's in our subdivision rules and regulations. You've dealt with it at Cooper.
Then is a boulevard a second means of egress?
You don't have a boulevard there. You don't even have barely enough.
Is a boulevard a second
No.
means of egress?
I'm not gonna look at it.
Mr. Mullen?
I-
It is on
Planning board bylaws.
Jane's estate.
By planning board bylaws, it is,
No, but it's not. Jane's estate was well before us. I'm just telling you, I don't think you have a
but
second
it's
means
part
of
of the
egress.
planning board bylaws.
It's not planning board bylaw. It was done 30 years ago. Jane's
Subdivision
estate.
control bylaw?
2 means of egress. All I'm trying to say is that I think it's too dense, and
Are you trying to provide for the seniors or not?
I'm trying to provide for the seniors, yes.
We came to you originally for a 3-story dwelling that you said doesn't meet the Littleton regulations
It
because
doesn't.
you don't agree with apartment buildings in Littleton.
I don't agree with it. It's not in our subdivision rules and regulations. I can't waive
That's
that.
the only way you can get more affordability for seniors.
Then
Per
maybe
square
that's why
foot.
we're gonna talk about it, maybe possibly changing it in the future. We need to talk about,
But
look
we,
at all different.
we have proposed and spent $100,000 right here,
Two different ways already, minimum. 3.
meeting the zoning bylaws as they are.
You don't. You need a waiver to get your second means of egress out there. You don't meet it. So
Okay, so
that's
then-
my,
Then that's why there's gonna be a discussion on why the merits of a project can either have a waiver or not.
That's what I'm talking about right
Okay,
now.
then-
I'm
then
asking the
Is there
board
any other
issues.
issues?
Right, that's what I'm trying to get out through all of this. That's one. I don't think your open space is really good, usable open space. That's my personal opinion, but I'm willing to keep going forward with that. I just want to hear where the rest of the board stands on whether we're sending it off or whether we're deciding whether we like it or we don't like
May
it.
we talk about the open space with the remaining board members?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to listen to it.
Are you comfortable with what we've amended it to?
I think it meets the requirement of the subdivision bylaw, I'm sorry, the senior residential development bylaw. So our bylaw reads, and I didn't bring it tonight, and I left it on the floor of my Jeep, but it's common open
There's
space.
an extra copy.
The blue one
Common open space.
has to have the ability to be deedable and transferable to to an entity in the town.
Or the town, It could be deeded to the
Association.
association.
That's right.
And there's also, you have to look at the aspect, maybe if this was a small open space subdivision where there was young families and stuff, and there was walking trails and more of that. We heard from a,
So, if I may, abutters have asked for buffers on a lot of these proposals, right? So sometimes this land that you're calling not contiguous or not open because it's so small is creating a buffer to some of the abutters. So that's one reason it might be there.
I don't think 10 feet
So-
is really a
it's
buffer.
not 10 feet, it's 40 feet.
No,
So
you're
the
not.
definition, the minimum common open space in the development shall be 30%. It doesn't say usable, it doesn't say walkable, it doesn't say out of the floodplain.
Does it say contiguous?
It does say
The minimum-
contiguous.
The upland open space shall be contiguous and usable.
And it is.
Yeah, I would argue that, but okay.
So that's
Right, and I think
another
this
route.
is a good
And-
discussion
and-
to have, because you do need 4 planning board votes.
Okay, so let's go
Yeah,
on
but
to the next
I'm
one.
asking
So-
for the board's, if I may have your opinion of the open space.
So I think one of the reasons why we still need to have a workshop on this and recognizing that that's for future, usable by residents of the development. So I guess the question would be, usable by residents of the development, what is it that seniors would want to be doing on the open space? And
Maybe
Would they-
privacy.
well, I think that would be one of those issues that I think we should at least discuss a little bit more to understand what it is that seniors would actually want to be doing on any of the properties. Is it
So-
something?
Isn't that why we had
If I
consultant last year do
may,
this?
so when we were going through the process of writing this bylaw, we spent a lot of time talking about what it is seniors might do on open space, and most of it was flat level and walkable paths, sidewalks. So
Okay.
they're showing sidewalks in their proposal that's walkable. Not a lot of them are looking to go dirt bike riding or mountain biking.
Right.
So the open space creates a buffer, creates a place for, wildlife habitat. They can do bird watching, animal watching, wildlife watching. There's a bunch of different things that can occur. We're also protecting the environment by creating the open space. So that's a benefit in itself.
Right.
But what seniors want to do on open space is mostly enjoy the fact that it is open space, not necessarily use it. They're going to be walking the sidewalks that are flat and level.
And the land is flat and level that is around on the open space.
That's what I recall from when we were writing it and drafting the bylaw. So
Okay.
All right, next.
you have a
Yes, ma'am.
Mary Hunt from Littleton on Hitzel Road. I'm on the Council of Aging, and I also attend the Littleton Housing Authority meetings as a representative. And I've talked to numerous seniors, and they are looking for one-level housing. There are some people who can do 2 levels, but they are looking for one-level housing. There's no question about that. The majority of them. I'm not disputing what you were saying.
Right.
There are some that can. But having been on the council for 5 years and going to the Littleton Housing Authority, that's what they want. The price for Foster Street, Cricket Lane proposal, up behind the high school. All too expensive. Sure, we're gonna get 3 here or 4 there, and we're gonna get 187,000 for the 4 or 3 number of houses we get. But they're way out of line for Littleton. There's no question about that. Now, maybe they can't be built for that, I don't know, I'm not a contractor. But they're not gonna be bought by Littleton people.
I beg to differ. I have 7 Littleton residents that have already asked to.
Well, there might be a few, but they're not basically gonna be
But that's-
Littleton people.
that's-
Not those.
That's
in
30%
my-
already.
In my age bracket.
Mhm.
It's not gonna happen.
Right.
And
that's the other fear of this, that it's not gonna be for seniors.
Seniors want one level, there's no question about that.
I disagree. We already have 7 people from Littleton that have come in that want to reserve a unit.
Right, but that does, what's their ages?
They range from 60 to, I'm not going to venture to guess on age, but older.
This isn't our first project at this. We've done White Street. There's 12 units there. We're in the process of another 20 units. There is a need for people who aren't 75 or 80. They want to downsize from their house that they bought 30 years ago in Jane's Estates, go down to a 1,500 or 1,800 square foot house. And they still want to be in Littleton, and it's still active, and there's still an opportunity for, this isn't a 100-unit subdivision where, it's going to meet every senior's
Need.
There is a need for this, because there is, just like the mobile home park. If it was just all mobile home parks in Littleton, it wouldn't work. I mean, there's different levels.
And I looked up the mobile home park. Their rental fee is over $400 right now. Per month.
And we spend a lot of time, and the town has spent a lot of time and money doing reviews and having consultants do this. This is the very first one that's going in there, and there is going to be a couple, modifications or some pushback or that, but this essentially meets needs of seniors in Littleton.
You just heard a senior say it
There's
didn't.
one.
That's one. But we've had them at the Board of Health. We have had Mrs. Weber here. You're going to base it all on one?
She talks to seniors all day long. We had a video where 4 of the 5 people on that video said.
Mark, if you want ranches, they're going to be $550,000 like other projects
Then
in
it's not
town.
gonna work.
Then
So
we
then
should have listened to the consultant last year.
You don't approve what I sat at the Board of Selectmen.
So if we
meeting
chop,
wait.
we chop the second floor off this, is that going to make you happy?
They want single-floor housing, okay?
But we've
How many
met
rooms
this.
are in this single floor? I mean, is it 2 bedrooms still?
Yeah, it's single floor.
But the price goes up, because the footprint gets bigger.
We went to the selectmen's meeting, and the selectmen told us at that meeting that you don't approve it just for the sake of approving it. It has to make sense and it has to work for the seniors. Otherwise, it shouldn't be approved. And I firmly agree with that. And if you have seniors going out of their way to come to the meetings and say, this isn't gonna work, we can't afford it, then why would you do it? Because you're not gonna get seniors in there. I don't care about your 7. I don't care about your 7. You've got
You
a
don't
lady.
care about the 7 people in Littleton that have asked to request to be in there?
I
Are you
care-
really saying that?
I care about the lady that sits there on the advisory board and says nobody that she talks to can afford this or wants 2 stories. Not 7 people that came to your office. I have no idea who I am. This lady,
You gotta scrap it and start over.
I think you might
Start
have.
over.
I think you might have to. I don't know.
Really?
But you already
You
approved
just
it, and now
told
this
us,
is what
we were
we're gonna do.
told 2 months ago that we met with the chair, Mr. Mullen at that time, that we met.
You don't have a second means of egress, for starters. That's number one. I'm still not convinced that you're meeting the needs of the seniors because it has.
So are we saying that any over 55 project in Littleton is now not going to be counted towards the 10% in Littleton?
What do you mean?
That's,
Yeah, we-
Are we saying that?
no,
We haven't got a definitive
no,
answer
we
yet.
don't have a
You don't have a
definitive answer.
definitive answer?
Do you know
All right.
when we might have one more?
No.
All right, well, then maybe
Well,
we gotta go
it's
with
a-
a different avenue.
Right, it's a process to get there. Where Cooper Farm Estates was permitted, preliminary and definitive subdivision several years ago. We hopefully have some leeway with DHCD on that. The
We've
other-
talked to them,
the
they
other-
said no.
Are they gonna recognize it?
the town is happy to have that discussion with
As
DHCD.
far as us, as far as I'm concerned on something like that, we entered a host community agreement on that, and that's why we're gonna keep it at 55. But if you can't count those kind of units as part of your 10%, then maybe something else has to happen.
We'll put another 40B in.
But why would,
It
I don't
wouldn't-
understand
It
why
wouldn't be
that,
beneficial to the town if we can't count the units, with the age restriction.
where we
But
have,
the old one,
we have the.
But there are several
we
that you
have the
can't count that
affordable.
have been approved prior.
DHCD
Well,
doesn't
that's-
seem to be interested in looking backwards at the prior ones. It's a new policy, the question is how new that policy is. And the town very much wants to see the affordable units at Cooper, and whether or not those, 5 units will count or not is an argument that the town will have with DHCD. And
Well, it'll change the percentage that the town is at.
Well, they're not gonna go back.
Whether or not,
We're not
right,
going back.
right, and the town, there's no reason for the town to give up those affordable units. So that's on that
All of
project. Moving forward, the board has the opportunity and the right to put age restrictions on units in a senior residential development, but you don't have the requirement of it. So some of that's going to depend on how the development is designed. They've designed a development where you would not have to put an age restriction on either the entire property, or perhaps you would consider putting age restriction on the market rate units. That's a, deeper discussion to have if you're moving forward with this development. Same thing with,
Yeah, I think we need to add that to the agenda for our discussion.
Well.
well, I think you have it during the public hearing.
Right.
Right. Now's a good time to have it.
Right.
The question is, before us right now, is whether we move forward on this. Do we send it out to peer review? Sooner or later, you're gonna draw a line in the sand and say whether and the issues that are before us right now, or the density, whether it's really a senior housing with the second floor, the price point, the open space, and the second means of egress. If you're satisfied with all of those and you're comfortable with it, then we send it out and spend $5,000, $6,000, whatever it is of their money to get peer review of it. If you're not comfortable with it, or you want to take more time, now's the time to say something. And we decide whether we go forward. It would have been nice if Jamie was here, because then it would have been the 4 of us, but only the 3 of us.
Going back to what I said earlier about setting precedent, one of the concerns that I have is around that second form of egress, in the sense that having 30 homes in that space with only one way in and one way out is definitely of concern. It just is. And
I would say that it would be if it was a regular residential, high-density, open space subdivision, when there's multiple, when it's mostly a senior, there's probably either 1 or 2 cars. They're not gonna have the traffic that a regular subdivision would.
And that would be gained with the peer review
It's
documentation.
And so, I want to actually highlight what the COA said around the emergency equipment coming in and out of there. And if
That's why
somebody needs
there's
to
a
get
loop.
in,
if it happened, it's.
You gotta start talking.
The majority, the houses
Michael,
are on
let's
the
stand
loop,
talk.
so that there is no car, traffic, or emergency vehicles stopping halfway down, because there's no structures halfway down the road.
It's-
All the houses are on the loop, so there is access from actually 2 sides coming in there. The road,
It's one way in, one way out.
Let's stand
It's a
talk.
design criteria, and if we start waiving that for this project, we'll be waiving it for everyone else, because everyone else behind you is gonna ask for the same thing. So where do we stop? The bylaw says 20 houses, you have to have a second means of egress. You have yours is at 24, do we go to 40 and then we say, yes, it's still okay? Or it's the subdivision rules and regulations. Why are we bending the subdivision rules and regulations to get this in? We've never had to deal with this much density on 4 acres before. And my theory is, and I still stick by it, if you can't get it without a waiver, you shouldn't build it in the first place. So I'm still there. You haven't convinced me that the benefit outweighs waiving the requirement, and it's still, I don't think it's senior friendly, and I don't think it's going to be senior friendly.
Could I ask a question? Would part of the peer review be a traffic consultant to look at this and render an opinion on whether or not that access is adequate and safe?
That's not the issue. The issue is you need a second one. The first one is probably perfectly fine, and we haven't even got the sight distance on the road because the road dips down like this and then goes all the way, goes back.
But that's what
We
I'm
haven't
asking.
got
Would,
that
if a traffic consultant agreed that one means of access and egress was sufficient for this and provided safe access?
It's a subdivision rule and regulation. I think it's really the board's decision.
I understand that. I'm just
Well,
saying,
that's my personal opinion.
would that,
I would be interested in an opinion
would
from the traffic.
would that influence your opinion?
I
If
thought
a
we talked
traffic
about this
consultant,
last
Michael, let's stand, keep going.
if a traffic consultant was required as part of the peer review, and they said that in their opinion, that this was adequate access for safety vehicles and for ingress and egress, would that hold any weight with the board?
It would with me.
Would it with you, Anna?
No.
The design criteria. It's in our subdivision rules and regs. It's there for a reason.
Really,
Okay.
Gentlemen, I don't want to spend your money because right now we don't have a consensus that would even send you out to peer review right now, because if the.
Well, we've
the
had
mem-
offline meetings and.
The member that's not here, whether she mollenizes herself or not, she may or may not also send it off. So from what I can hear right now, you've only got support from one member to send it off for peer review. So at this point, through the chair, if I may make a recommendation that we continue the public hearing to our next meeting.
Until Jamie gets here and we have,
You have a couple
Yes.
people there.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary
in the
Pickford,
next
160
meeting,
Great
Friday.
Road. My concern is, okay, each of the units has how many parking spaces?
Each of the units has three.
Each of the
Each
unit.
has three.
So if you have a person that has two, if you have a couple that has two cars, what happens?
Each unit has three.
Has three parking spaces.
using the
Correct.
garage as one of them.
Okay, what if they have a party?
There's
What
extra
happens-
parking spaces in the area for guests.
And could you show me where those are?
The third page is, there's a couple spots. It's showing.
Yeah, he had spots on it, and I think it's in between the back. Our engineer, our regular engineer is not here, and he did design it. We did talk about it.
But if it's far from the front, how can people walk to that, especially like at Christmas time?
We're on a 4-acre site.
I
It's not-
understand where
it's
you
not-
are. I am very much aware of where you are. But, you know, my concern is a lot of people will have people come in for holidays, birthdays, whatever, or just because there's a funeral. Where are you gonna park them? And a lot of them are going to have elderly people that are going to be coming. They're not gonna be able to walk a long distance to get there.
Well, that would be like any other residential subdivision. The number of spaces required per housing unit is provided, and if anybody has a Christmas party or a funeral or whatever,
they're
there's
not as
people
dense
showing
as
up.
that. What she's getting
I
at is,
agree, it's not as dense as
it's not
that,
as
but
that.
there,
There's more roadway, there's more
There
area.
are parking spaces, and I believe Greg went over it with you in the last meeting. That was one of the questions,
Okay.
and we will provide that for them.
Okay.
Make a motion to continue the hearing to the next.
You got a motion?
Oh, yeah.
We got a couple people in the back.
Yes, Mr. Crowley, please.
Yes, through the chair, I'd like to just make a comment as a townsperson, a taxpayer. What I'm hearing in this room tonight is a lot of opposition on the number of units and the second story and the egress and the open space. And if there's that much opposition to develop a building a small complex like this, and how are you going to possibly get anything for seniors, any kind of residence for seniors? What you're doing is you're trying to beat them up on the number of units, and by doing that, you're going to just eliminate that or drop the number of units for seniors off the charts. You might send them away. You might come back with a 40B. See, this is a friendly proposal, and he's offering units that will be usable for Littleton seniors. Now, not all Littleton seniors may be able to afford it, but some will, and some are looking forward to something like this. So if you're if the bylaw is to mean anything, if we're to try to help the seniors in this town in any way, then move this project forward, instead of just trying to sit here and beat the living daylights out of it.
Thank you. Mr. Kennard?
I understand we have a regulation that, that demands we have to have 2 means of egress. But how is that different than Ponside?
Quonset was 40B, we didn't even have a chart to
How
look
is
at.
that different than Alumni Field? How many cars do you got going down there at a football game? One way in, one way out. There's probably 2,000 people at a football game. There's probably 1,500 cars, or, well, not 1,500, maybe 350 to 400 cars.
There is a second way out of Alumni Field. It's up through the path going up. That was what it was designed for 30 years ago.
So the fire truck would have to come through the
It's
track?
it's not a
to get up through
residence,
there?
it's a football field, but the town, it's
I'm
the
just saying,
town's
I'm
issue.
just saying, you're just talking about a safety issue. Why?
It's
why
a
would
design
that work?
criteria. It's used to regulate how many houses you can have on something, because you have to be able to fit it on there. And if you can't get the second one on there, then maybe it shouldn't be there in the first place.
How many places in town can we do this?
I don't know, but I do know that our subdivisions since 1951 have required that you have a second means of egress. Why
How did
not?
Jane's Estates get approved?
Right.
Jane's Estates has a second way out through the back. I
No,
don't
it
know, I
doesn't.
wasn't on, yes, it does, it could
does
have.
not.
It does
could
not.
have. It could have. I didn't approve Jane's Estates, so don't ask me
But
about.
it has a boulevard.
Right, and if I recall, Jane's Estates was approved with a boulevard, and the board that came on shortly after that said that's the last time that'll
Yeah.
ever happen, because it didn't work.
I wasn't on the board, it was before my time. I can't believe it was, but it was before my time. We have another one we have to go to, Mr. Canado.
So, was it a design criteria for some of the recent subdivisions like Edwards Drive? I don't believe has a second means of egress. I don't believe Gray Farm Road.
Gray Farm Road has a second means of egress.
It is
It has an
not built.
emergency, it hasn't been
Where
built,
is it?
yes, hasn't been built, but that's, we're sitting here talking.
53 homes
No,
in
but
there.
the-
53, not 30.
It's in our subdivision rules and regulations, it's up to
And
the
how did-
board.
But
How did
it was
Edwards
just
Drive get
waived-
approved?
Was it not just waived for the 30 house lots on Durkey Farm?
No, it wasn't. Durkey Farm proved that they could build it. You guys can't even build it. You don't even have the roadway to build it. If Durkey Farm proved they could build it, the planning board decided, because of the sensitivity of the land that it was gonna go over, that they would waive building the second one, but they could put it in.
So it is waived.
It was waived, it's,
It's a waiver.
well, it had a
was
second
waived.
means of egress
It was waived.
already in there. It was an extension of an existing subdivision that did have 2 means of egress. This was,
It's
It's
30 houses that do
you know
not
what?
have a
What can I
second
tell
means
you?
of egress. It was waived.
They could build it, though. They asked to waive the building.
But how
You
does
can't
that
build
help
it.
safety if you
You know what?
can build it
I had
but you
enough.
don't?
Okay.
No, I want one more question. How much space do you need between 2 means of egress?
We're not gonna do a
How much space is
boulevard.
it?
No, I'm not asking for a boulevard. I'm asking how much space do you need between 2 roads?
Subdivision regulations has a distance between roadways. I don't remember if it's 300 or 400 feet.
Yeah. It's a fair amount. It's not,
It was, that's why the distance between Cooper.
Talk about new street intersections,
Yeah.
300 feet.
300 feet, so it's not minor. Okay, now, Mr. Crowley, one last question. Go ahead. I owe it to you.
Thank you, Chairman Montanari. This, we really can't say that, none of us in this room are experts on traffic. We really need to get a traffic control study if you have a question about whether that roadway is adequate or not. It's right across the street from the church. They dump more than that on a Sunday church.
It's
So-
not, I beg to differ,
My-
it's not a question of adequacy of the roadway, it's subdivision control law.
I
It's our
understand that, but
bylaw, it's our rules.
But you see, this is why people are here to, they will ask you for a waiver for that. And we're having a discussion about the waiver right now.
Right, that's what we're
And-
discussing.
And it sounds like that it's not gonna be a favorable waiver, the way this discussion's going. And to my mind, I would say that there's nobody in this room qualified to say if that roadway is adequate or not. You need a
It's not
qualified.
adequacy of the roadway,
You
Mr. Crowley,
need-
it's subdivision control, our bylaw says 2 ways in, 2 ways out, once you get over 19.
Right, so
over
that's
19
what
lots.
that's what the black and white says. But the black and white there is, I was one of the ones that voted that subdivision bylaw, and I understand every word in that bylaw. And we change
No more money on.
words in that bylaw for every single development. We go from granite to asphalt curve, we make multiple changes, fewer trees. So these, what I'm hearing here is that, I'm just suggesting a way around this impasse is to mandate a traffic study if you really have an issue with the amount of cars going in.
It's not a traffic issue, so a traffic study is, Ms. Napoli, I'll take you, Ms. Napoli, I'll take you last, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Thanks. Just a question, under the bylaw, it doesn't specifically state the type of housing that you're looking for. It doesn't specifically limit it to single-family living. I mean, single-floor living, correct? It says townhouses, duplexes, and single-floor living, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't age restrict
Right.
under the bylaw, right? So I know there's a lot of focus on this development not being conducive to senior citizens, but it could be conducive to other needs in the community, like a single mom with a child, a veteran. There's other options with this project as opposed to just having it serve senior citizens, even though it's a senior housing bylaw,
That's
correct?
the point, we're doing this for our seniors. That's entirely another issue in and of itself.
Right, but it's the way it's written though.
But this is a senior residential bylaw, so we should be focusing on the seniors.
Right.
And the point is, if you're gonna build it, you wanna build it so that the seniors will be able to buy it.
And we've
Not-
done that twice already, and so far that's our track
Right.
record of doing it.
Right, but I guess my point is, it doesn't specifically, the way it's written though, the hope is that it will be for the seniors, but it doesn't restrict it specifically to the seniors. So in this project could serve many other needs in the community in addition to the seniors, even though the intent was to create affordable housing for the seniors.
But that's where we're starting, and that's where we should be focused on that.
Right, but I don't think that we should, I don't want to say penalize this project in some respects. I think we should be more open-minded about it, especially the way the bylaw is written.
Okay, thank you. No,
But
I,
it's not a
Continue this meeting.
It's-
housing
And
development.
discussion
it's,
continues.
then it's not like, then it's not a senior residential housing development.
No,
Mr.
but
Chair,
that-
if I may make a
yeah.
motion to continue this hearing to the next scheduled public hearing?
So when, you want this on the September meeting?
Yes. Okay,
So September 13th. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're running late.
I'm going for 40B.
Okay.
I'm buying it for 40B.
Okay, we have Jones, 730 Jones Meadow, Senior Spectic Pond Road, Cricket Lane, continued public hearing. Yes, we have yours up there.
Good luck. It's the same event?
Okay, so we're at the same point on this one as we were on the previous one. We're getting close to deciding whether we want to send this out to peer review. And I wanted to poll the board before I spend your money if the board does not like this project. So I'm going to open up to the board first to see what concerns they have with it, and then we'll go from there.
Can I ask a question before you start?
Sure.
Is the board aware of the waivers that we're looking for this project?
You were looking for a second means of egress? What else are you asking for?
They're all right here. There's 11, but it's actually 7 because 4 are redundant because they fall into 2 articles.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so, Peter, you've had a chance, what?
Sir, just to make sure you're aware, both the 93 Foster Street and the 245 Foster Street have asked to continue.
Right.
So,
So I know we have some extra time, that's
Yep.
why I let it go run on.
thank you.
Yes. Maybe a little too long, but I let it run on. I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Scott, since you had a chance to relax and.
We'll start somewhere else. So you
I'll
didn't
start
have a
somewhere
chance.
else, okay. Anna, I'll start with you on this subject, this project. Likes, dislikes,
Does
concerns?
Peter get off?
He has seniority over you.
Well, thank you for refreshing our memory on all the different waivers. That's where it came from in terms of the request to have the waiver, because Cricket Lane is a private road. So I think for me, the bottom line to having anything related to an existing subdivision reg waived is really trying to understand whether it's going to be a good thing for the community or not. And in this particular case, as with the King Street property, I don't believe that it is. As it relates to the development at Jones Meadow that you're talking about, there has been so much community input, so many other board members, committee members that have come forward, either in writing or at these meetings, to state that they are concerned that this development doesn't really fit that particular community area. So I think that's important that we listen to that. And then third, you know, working with you all has been like pulling teeth, in the sense that we've gone over this for 6 months, even before I was on this board. And the board has told you, and you can certainly go back and look at all the videos of exactly what it is that we're requesting, and we don't get that. We need you to cross your T's and dot your I's. I mean, even that, we have yet to see that as a board, other than up there. We never got copies of it in June. In fact, there was conflicting information that you provided to us. It just doesn't feel like you're really serious about working with us on this. And those are my 3 concerns with your application.
Second means of egress, open space. Where are you on this one?
Well, the egress is what I started with, so that's a big concern in terms of that. Setting precedent to me is really important, in the sense that you never know what kind of unintended consequences you're going to get down the road. So you guys do it, so then the next applicant comes through and he wants to put 60 homes into an equal size space. Why? Because, well, you let Jones Meadow get to do it, so we get to do it. So at some point, we really need to understand whether or not it's a good thing for the community or not. As for open space, I think that in this particular example, you all had opened up the area so that others from the community could walk around. I mean, there is no access really to the lake or anything. So is that correct? You had the open space available for everybody in the community to walk through?
Yeah, we don't own any property that goes to the lake.
Right, that's what I mean.
But you could walk through there.
Okay. I don't have any comment on the open space.
Can I ask a question, or do you want to wait till?
I think let's the board talking to you guys. Mr. Mullen?
Again, I feel like I'm a lone wolf on this one, but it meets the requirements. I think they've been great to work with. I think that they've tried hard to satisfy the requirements of the senior residential development bylaw. I mean, in all intents and purposes, it meets what we wrote as a bylaw. I've talked to Steve and Roger several times about maybe making the open space a little more large, one larger piece, as opposed to having some of the buffers, but they put those in there to create the buffer per request of some of the abutters. They're happy to work with us on those issues. I know Mr. Montanari's had concerns about affordability. They are meeting the design criteria of first floor living, level entrances, handicapped accessible, parking, garages, all that stuff for the houses. I think it stands on its merits. I'd be willing to send it to the
Okay.
off to be peer reviewed.
Mr. Scott? I get to go last.
Till you know. Well, in this one in particular, did they listen to us with the one-floor living? Yep. The open space, I don't have a big problem with what they have for an open space. It's better than some of the other objects that are out there. The price point is again something that I want. My idea is to do it for the town of Littleton. We're not the elderly in town now are not of a rich stature for the most part. We've worked our whole lives, and you and I are there, brother.
Yeah, we're close.
So we worked our whole lives, and now we want to downgrade a little bit, but we'd like to stay. How are we going to be able to afford to do something like that? We'd end up with a new house, we'd end up with a smaller house, and we'd end up with hopefully people we liked around us. But again, if we can't get the price point necessary for the elderly in Littleton, and I don't care about Concord and Lexington and Acton, and I don't care about all them. I care about the fact that we can get a price point met for the elderly in town. If it means something to do with perhaps the number of houses that are permitted. This one here is all individual residences.
Standalone.
Standalone single families.
I look at that swing around the left. What would happen if and I don't recall how we ended up. What if we put two houses together and we eliminated the space in between them, and they had the garages on the side and everything was the same, but we just made one marrying wall, so you have less siding instead of two sets of two walls getting sided. You don't side any of them because and then you end up with a poured wall in between or double sheetrocked and what you got to do for the silencing of that. So now we've eliminated some work there, brought the cost down some, opened up more land. Did it again and then made some space and did it again over there. Swung it over. If you could reduce the cost in all instances, in every project that comes before us, if we could reduce the cost on some of the units that are available to the town, to residents of the town, the other, I don't care if he gets $1.2 million for each one after that. And as far as egress, and again, it's one of those things that, again, like Anna says, you don't really want to set a precedence. But I also look at, like you said, Jane's Estates. Well, that's not a whole bunch of fun. Mattawanakee, there's 150 houses in there. It comes out to one choke point. Get out at 119. It used to be able to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and not see another car till Concord. Now at 6 o'clock, I can wait 5 minutes to hope for an opening. So. We're changing. There's no two ways around it. As much as I want to stay in caveman days, I really do. Look at it. I don't even look at the bloody thing because I don't know how to make it work. I don't want to. As long as this project and any other project comes before us gives the elderly what we need, the Littleton residents, a shot at having a place to stay in Littleton, then I'm looking for some. I will grant some waivers, yes. I'm not giving up on the granite.
You kill me.
Well, I gave it a shot. You're getting quicker in your old age. I missed.
You have no problem with granite curbing, okay?
I want granite curbing.
But yet,
long term.
You'll waive the design criteria for second means of egress. You would have a problem with that, but you want granite curbing.
If the town got what it needed for the elderly, then I would. The reason why I don't want to give up the granite is because over time it's continuously. What are we putting in at the middle school now? Putting granite curbs in, taking out the concrete curbs and putting granite in. What if we had done it the first time, or I wouldn't be spending? How much is it, Mr. Anthony? How much is it costing us to put granite curbs in at the school?
It's around $70,000-$80,000.
$80,000. Well, that's not so much money. How come you guys keep saying it costs so much money? Look at. Taking it out and putting it in.
You got 1,430 lineal feet of road there, times two, both sides. It's going to be a little more than 80,000, maybe about 235.
That doesn't do anything for the affordability.
You're right, it doesn't. But in the long term, the town doesn't have to pay to replace curbs and everything else over time. So in the long run, it will cost the town less money. correct?
I don't disagree with that, but it does, I don't think it does anything up front for the affordability
Well,
of the units.
okay, but in the long term, that's what we're looking for. We're not a 40-yard dash, this is a marathon.
So Peter, if I may, on what you were saying about getting something for Littleton seniors, one of the things I know that we could negotiate with any party that's before us is the amount of affordability that they're gonna provide. The bylaw says 10%, but if they're willing to provide more, you know, and then above that 10%, it creates
I think that, yes,
Littleton.
that would be, without question, a good idea. We never should have put 10% in the beginning. That number should have been changed from day one. We should have paid more attention. I think it's a good bylaw in many respects, but it has some flaws. And I think we should address the flaws.
So why don't we address it with the people that are before us now and ask them if they'd be willing to do more than 10%?
However you want to get there, that's not what I was asked. I wasn't asked to bring that question up, I was asked to address how I feel about that project in particular. And those are the things that I feel as long, and again, life is made up of compromises, I don't want to give away the farm, but I'll be damned if we can get what we need for the elderly is what we got, how this started. That's where it all started. Otherwise, just scrap the whole goddamn thing and don't have any of it.
You can't swear on TV.
I didn't swear, I spoke to the almighty power.
Okay, are you done right this second?
For now.
Okay, for
Can
now.
you take me off?
No, just want to make sure.
Just trying to have some fun.
Well, this is a little more serious.
There you go.
All right. So right now, you're ambivalent about the second means of egress. How's that?
Sure, we'll go with that word if you
Go
like.
that ambivalent right now? You're not one way or the other. You're still mulling it over.
I already said how I felt about it.
Okay.
Want me to read it back to you?
Nope, Mara can do it later.
There you go. 'Cause
My
I can
turn.
have her read it back right now.
My turn.
Your
Okay.
turn.
I agree that Mr. Kennard listened and made it one story. I like that. That's what the residents in town of Littleton are asking for. I don't like the price point. I still don't like the price point. And maybe I'm an idealist, whatever, but somebody's got to speak. People that have spent 30, 40 years paying taxes in this town want to go to something cheaper, still in their town, they can live here, and they can age in place in town of Littleton, but not give up all their money for the first house that they built, sell it off, and then spend all the money over here and still have the same tax bill. It doesn't do what we were promised it was gonna do. By giving the higher density, we're gonna get lower prices, and I don't really think we've gotten lower prices out of it. I still think it's not affordable to the majority of the seniors that are in the town of Littleton. I'm not thrilled about the second means of egress, because once we do it for you, we have to do it for everybody else. And that's a subdivision decision. It's not an open space, it's not a senior decision, it's a subdivision decision. We have subdivision rules and regulations for a reason. And the reason is so that it is a tool that you use to limit how many units you can put on any lot in the town of Littleton. You're gonna start getting all these big lots with no access, and people are gonna, as Anna said, where do you stop? You stop at 60, do you stop at 50? Where do you stop? Once you give it to one person, you have to give it to everybody else. You talked about Gray Farm. Yes, Gray Farm did have a second means of egress. The planning board was remiss in not making sure that it was built, and we will definitely address that issue with Mr. Palmer in the not-too-distant future. It should have been built as one of the phases. I guess, we got busy, we lost track of it, but it is definitely, that was the way it was approved. So it's not like we're setting precedent, at least in my mind. Open space is better. It gives more of a buffer than the other ones that we've seen for the most part. There's still a few areas. I still have problems with drainage structure in open space, because we learned a valuable lesson from the project that we're still in the middle of right now, where the drainage is turning the open space into unusable open space because it's so wet. So I'm concerned about that aspect of the open space. I don't know, I still think it's just too dense. Yes, sir. I promised you.
We did remove the drainage areas from the open space calculations.
I get that. You might have taken them out of calculation, but they're in the they're abutting the open space, so.
And then there could be a second means of egress, albeit maybe just emergency egress to Cricket Lane.
You're not allowed, it's a private road, it's not, you don't have the right to go down Cricket Lane, as far as I know. But people in Cricket Lane might
I'm sure they wouldn't be happy about that, but I believe we would have the right to do that.
I think we need, maybe you need to explore that more. I think
Town
that-
plows it.
Town plows a lot of private roads, but anyway. Anyone else? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or concerns? Besides Mr. Crowley. Mr. Crowley, sir.
Well, thank you, Chairman Montanari, for the time to say a few words here. It sounds to me, again, like this is another project where we've asked developers to come to this town and bring us projects, bring us housing, affordable housing. Now, the price points that they have here are what it costs for land plus building plus a developer's markup. There's no killer prices in any of these developments, either the last one we saw or this one here. It's what it costs to live in Littleton because the land is what it costs to live in Littleton. Land is the biggest cost of any house that you build. And the affordable, we get 3%. That means 3 houses at the 175 or 180 price point. That's your affordable. Everything else is market share, and that's how it's set up. You can check other towns, and that's exactly the same way. The affordability comes with the word affordability is attached to those 3 houses. But you don't use, it's inappropriate to use the word affordability with the rest, the other 27 houses. You're, by even going down that path and talking in that direction, I think you're putting the town at risk because you're in a way extorting something that doesn't exist out of this bylaw. Using the bylaw to extort more. Now, you're not working with the developer because you're beating them up on open space, you're beating them up on the roadway, you're beating them up on the number of houses, and you're using the word affordability for those other 27 houses. You can't do that, in my eyes. You're putting the town at risk.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask the proposer a question. For discussion's sake, if we were to ask you for 20% affordable instead of the 10% that's in the bylaw, and the second 10% was going to be made with a Littleton preference, with a time limit on it, let's say 6 months, 8 months, or 12 months. If we were to get that commitment from you guys, if we were to do the math so that people would understand, that would be 6 units on your proposal would become affordable. 3 of those would have a Littleton preference. If you're building 6 at 187, and selling them out at 187,000, the addition, another 6 that you would build would cover the cost of those first 6 that were affordable. So now you've just built 12 houses for nothing in this subdivision. If we're not getting a fair shake on that math right there, then I don't know what is a fair shake. Because they're going to give this town 12 houses, 6 of them are going to be affordable, 3 of them are going to have a Littleton preference, and they're going to lose money on 12.
No, you break even.
Break even, well,
Break even on
let's
12.
hope. They still got to put a road in.
Make money on 18.
Right.
Okay.
On a project where you could probably build 8 houses.
9 houses.
9 houses. 9 houses. The density.
So I would.
So you
I
build
would like-
12 for free or 9 for profit.
And 18 for profit. 12 for free and 18 for profit.
So you get, there's no,
Yeah, but
no
this-
credit for building 12 for free?
We're talking about 1,300 square feet instead of 3,300 square feet.
Okay?
I think the profit margins are a little bit different. A little bit.
Here's the price point.
The proposal that Ed is suggesting has merit. I think all along I thought 10% was a little shy.
The old bylaw says 25. I agree with you.
You know, and Cindy brought up a good point at the last selectmen's meeting. So I think 20% would be a fair shake if we can get these waivers.
Okay?
And this is a special permit. This is
Okay?
a special permit. A special permit by your judgment could allow these waivers to be accepted. If the benefit to the town is 20%, I don't see why. That's a slam dunk.
Okay, that's a proposal.
So-
And that's a consideration, let's put it that
So
way.
just like the proposal before us, I would still prefer to see this go for a peer review as opposed to continuing to another hearing, but
I want to see what the board thinks. I'll start with you again.
Well, I mentioned 3 different things as being of concern, and I think the one that is pretty important is that of the residents and the other boards and committees that have come forward with concerns about this particular development. Where are we in terms of listening to them and addressing the concerns that they have?
well, first of all, the letter that we got from the Board of Health shouldn't be considered because it didn't come from the Board of Health, it came from a member. They should have never held up the last meeting that came before us. And shame on them for that, so.
Who sent the letter?
We got the second letter yesterday, and that's posted as well. And we had gotten the response from Corey previously, Light and Water Department. He did weigh in on the water quality issues. He's indicated that he has no concerns.
Did you get a chance to review that response from the board, Cory?
Corey Godfrey,
Yeah, just happened.
the water
Just came
department.
Just happened?
Was that listed
Yeah.
on our website?
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, skip me, thank you.
Those legs.
And so what about all of the residents?
I mean,
All of the residents that have come to tell us about how concerned they are with the density and all of the other concerns that they've raised.
But where were they when we got the 2/3 support for a senior residential development bylaw?
But that's
We
different.
got the support. We have abutters. Listen, we're gonna have people that are gonna oppose every single building in town, every single time it happens. When they put the 40B in my neighborhood, right? We actually worked with the developer, got what we could out of them. I'm a capitalist first. I believe anybody has a right to do what they want with
I
their
agree
property.
with you 100%.
So what I'm saying is that we're better off working with them and getting what we can as opposed to getting something we don't want.
What don't we want? What are we gonna get that we don't want there?
Well.
The abutters said that they did not want McMansions built. And so if we don't do this development, we're
That's
gonna
what they're
build
gonna get. So,
McMansions.
you know, do we listen to every single person that cries, oh, I want more open space? Listen, we can only do what we can do. It's their land. It's their right. They're gonna give us 20% instead of 10%. How much more do you want?
So
I don't look at it
ideally,
like that, I want it affordable for all of them.
Well, that doesn't meet the
Affordable for
bylaw.
all of what? All 30 houses affordable?
so I have,
More than 6, let's put it that way. Why
How
would
the hell do you do 30? Well,
I
Come
didn't
on,
say-
again, you still have to be realistic in Ed's defense.
More than 6.
We're not here to we're here to do the best we can for our elderly. But we're not here also to hamstring every guy that comes before us. And every one of the residents that have a question about it, there's a 37 or 40 people that are associated with that association. If each one of them kicked in $37,000, they could have kept it as free open space and let the town build fields that have fun on it. They could have purchased it and have it. It's you don't want to see it, then pay for it. You can't, in his case with the capitalism, you gotta.
But the people that live there are relying on us to protect them from
Yes, and-
overdevelopment of their property.
I understand that. But in every single instance, before we were here, before your house was up there, that was just a hill.
Right.
And then you built a house in the middle of it and wrecked it, because it used to be beautiful woods.
okay, so.
And now you got a
let's
guy
get-
next to you
But
built
that's
another
one.
house.
Let's get back
That's
to this.
one that's attached to 25 other ones.
Focus on this one is the density has gone from 1 to 1 to 4 to 1, and the price hasn't dropped significantly to make it more affordable for the seniors. I'm not debating that Mr. Mullins' request to bring it to 20% is better than the first request. It is. Is it enough to make it?
Well, once again, our choices are, we get 6 affordable houses, or we get 9 McMansions.
May I make a comment on the price point? So, right now, there's 560 one-level ranch-style houses in the town of Littleton.
How many?
560, according to public record.
Wow.
So there's 560 in the town of Littleton. And on average, a 1,300 to 1,400 square foot Ranch sells for $410,000. So if we build the same house and sell it for $100,000 less, are we not poisoning those 560 people? Are we not helping 30 people buy an affordable house and taking the value of 560 other people's houses and demolishing that value? Because the way that the market works is we look at comparable sales and price per square foot, and that's how the bank appraisers do it. So if we're selling them for $300 and you're in Littleton Common trying to sell yours for $400, the bank appraiser is going to say, we're not going to lend the buyer that money. So when it comes to the price point, obviously the only way to really bring the price down is to build a smaller house, or to do what Peter suggests. You can save a little bit of cost if you marry some of the houses.
But if you marry the houses, then you gotta create an association,
Right.
and then the resident now has to pay an association fee. As it's a standalone structure, there's no association fee. With no association fee, you have less cost. It's a wash, in my opinion, because that association is a lifetime of payments.
Somebody in the back, yes, are you raising your hand or you just tired?
No, I'm raising my hand.
Name, please, for Maren.
Jennifer Manicum, 11 Cricket Lane. So, I have a couple questions. Mr. Mullen, you just said that there's no association, but then I heard in the Board of Health meeting, Mr. Kennard say that there was an association that would address, maintenance needs, and obviously a great concern about this new infiltration pond, which Mr. Montanari, said is creating an issue in another development that's right behind our property. So I'd love to hear about that. I also wonder if can you share with the room the list of the waivers that the Kennards are asking for?
Andy, you want to read them off to the clerk?
Sure. All right, did you have any other questions before I read these?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I appreciate the Kennards mentioning that development at a certain price level will impact the value of other homes in the area of similar size. And, I would just suggest that this development will also impact the value of all the homes that are in the neighborhood now. So if we're worrying about the value of people's homes, I would want to make sure that the value of our homes in the neighborhood are taken into that consideration as well.
Thank you. So this is a letter from the civil design group called Desharman Dillis. On behalf of the applicant, Kennard Homes, we respectfully request the following waivers to the Littleton Subdivision of Land Regulations. Sections 249 through 43 C1 Streets and Paths. A request is being made to allow bituminous bituminous concrete in lieu of the vertical granite curbing. 2, sections 249 through 43 C2 Streets and Paths. Since the proposed project is a senior residential development, a waiver is being requested to eliminate the need of a paved bus waiting area. 3, sections 249 to 43 D8 Streets and Paths. The proposed project currently has one access point off Spectacle Pond Road. The other road that the property could gain access off of is Cricket Lane, which is a private road. To avoid having an emergency access off the private road, we are requesting a waiver to the 2 means of egress. Number 4, sections 249 to 43 E3 Streets and Paths. A waiver is being requested to allow the required amount of street trees to be planted along the western property line along Cricket Lane instead of being planted along the street. Number 5, sections 249 to 43 E11 Streets and Paths. Street shade trees shall be installed on both sides of the street. In some locations, however, a waiver is being requested to allow the remaining amount of street trees to be planted along the western property line along Cricket Lane instead of being planted along the street. Refer to the site plans for proposed tree locations. Number 7, sections 249 through 51G Stormwater Management. A waiver is being requested for the use of HDPE pipe in lieu of RCP or ductile iron drainage pipe. Number 7, sections 249 through 59D, other requirements. A waiver is being requested for an emergency access road. There is one proposed entrance and exit to the development off of Spectacle Pond Road. Number 8, sections 249 to 59E, other requirements. Due to the magnitude and location of the proposed work, a waiver is being requested for the construction management plans. The hours of construction operations will be in accordance with the town's bylaw. Number 9, sections 249 to 73, curbs. A request is being made to allow
bituminous
bituminous concrete in lieu of the vertical granite curbing. 10, sections 249 to 85, B1, utilities. A waiver is being requested for the use of HDPE pipe in lieu of RCP or ductile iron drainage pipe. 11, sections 249 to 90B, additional construction requirements. Due to the magnitude and location of the proposed work, a waiver is being requested for the traffic management plans. And it is signed James Laughlin, Civil Engineer.
Right, and that it was part of the application materials that is posted on the website.
Anyone else have any questions, concerns? Go ahead, Amy.
So, Mr. Chair, I do have a question, because it goes back to the whole issue of the one waiver along the egress topic. So please help me understand where the change happened that I believe originally the proposal was to have 20 homes on this site. Is that correct?
23, I believe.
So basically what happened is we were going in front of the Board of Selectmen, and we were asked to put a conceptual design together essentially overnight. And so we just made a call to the engineer and said, they just want a visual of what this will look like. And so he just did a quick and dirty conceptual. And at that time, it displayed 22. Prior to the Board of Selectmen voting on whether or not they wanted to purchase the land, prior to that happening, a subdivision that looked very similar, a subdivision of 30 homes was presented, prior to them making any decisions. So that, the 30 houses was exactly what they were looking at when they decided not to purchase the property.
Mrs. Napoli?
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Cindy Napoli, Board of Selectmen. I will say for the record, I did not see the plan that Mr. Canal was just referring to, prior to voting on the host community agreement. I know that they shared a plan with some members of the Board of Selectmen, I believe, during the drafting of the host community agreement, but that was never presented before the board at any of our meetings prior to executing the host community agreement. And regardless of that, it says right in the host community agreement, paragraph 5, that any prior discussions, correspondence, plans were disregarded when we signed the host community agreement going forward. So we can't look back and compare it to what we have today before us. So I don't agree with that statement. It wasn't presented before the board. It's not, the Board of Selectmen did not see a plan similar to this prior to signing the host community agreement.
So you're saying that you were shown 22 houses, 23 houses?
We were shown the conceptual design at a board meeting.
So, if I may, I was at the board, a selectman meeting, sitting in the audience as a member of the community, and I saw the subdivision that had the 30 homes at a public meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
You did?
I did.
Thank you.
Oh, you did? I don't recall seeing that, honestly, prior to signing the host community agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, but I recall it as a
And,
citizen.
all right,
being
so,
in the audience.
so maybe it's just my memory. I don't recall seeing that.
Okay.
But regardless, when we signed the host community agreement, it wasn't based on the idea that this is what we expected. We actually deferred it to the planning board, that any future decisions made with regard to this development would be made by you, not by the Board of Selectmen. So regardless, even if that is true and it was shown to us prior to signing the host community agreement, we defer it to you. You're the governing authority with regard to this development.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one other question,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind. Is there a 30-foot buffer between the property line on those, the house is proposed on the right side, and the existing abutter, like,
No, that's not 30 feet. Is that 5 feet? 10 feet? It's 10 feet. There's
As
a
it says
dimension
in the
right
fi-
there.
It looks like a 6 right there to me.
No, that's
No.
6 is for the width of the septic trenches.
Gotcha.
I don't have the plan.
I believe that's 10 feet.
it's 10 feet, no, so just,
What distance are you looking for?
so the thing that I'm asking about is, in the bylaw, it says the minimum setback is 30 feet from all property lines.
The houses are more than 30 feet from the property lines.
Okay.
From the abutting property lines.
It is?
Not the
Yes.
house, the lot line.
The lot lines.
No, that lot line is not.
I just don't know, yeah, the minimum setback is supposed to be 30 feet from all property lines.
Is that for the house?
I don't know, it's just the way the bylaw is written.
Then what are you asking?
Does it meet the bylaw?
Setbacks are What's the question? Structures.
Okay, that's all. I didn't know if the property line,
It's the structure.
it's the structure, okay, that's all.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So the rear property line is 30 feet.
Yeah.
That's
what
the
the-
bylaw, right? That's
So,
the offset bylaw.
as I did before,
It's not the- yeah.
I'd like to see this move forward to go for peer review, just like the last proposal that was before us. But- So,
If you need a second, I'll send it to peer review also. Somebody else to look at it, someone else to make a decision, as opposed to sitting here, what ifs, and then if they're happy enough paying somebody to look at it, then they'll look at it, they'll get some information from them, when it comes before us, and we make a vote.
gentlemen, before we take this vote, I do want to say you are at risk because I feel like we have a split board on this right now, so.
Right. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you can't accept the waivers, there's no point in going forward right now for 20% affordable. So let's go down a different road.
Well, a different road would be build 20 houses and then we don't have the egress problem, right?
19 houses.
19.
But then we don't get the affordable
We get
units.
two
We don't get the
affordable
20%, we get the 10%.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
The goal is to build affordable units for the town.
But they're not going to be affordable, so that, they're not going to be affordable based on the definition that Mary and others in the town have presented. They are,
It's gonna be affordable,
6 affordable
meeting the
units,
bylaw requirements.
Meeting the bylaw requirement.
So 6 affordable units at 187.
That doubles what we're asking, correct?
Correct.
So we get twice as many affordable units. That's what we get.
And 3 of those get Littleton preference.
3 of them. But again, whoever shows up with the money, that's where it goes, right? And if 6 people are in the first signed papers, and they're all from Littleton, do I qualify?
You might.
I don't think you're.
Because can I sign up now? Huh?
I don't think you're,
I'm not
I
elderly?
think you make too much. Well, you're elderly.
I'm so poor I can't pay attention.
Anyway,
Oh, just one,
Yes.
why only 3% vetted towards Littleton residents? Do you have
Because
to, you have to limit it?
State regulations.
Okay, that's what I thought.
no, 10%.
Yeah,
The second
3
10%.
units, you meant 3 units.
3 units,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It
Peter
meets pretty much
seconded my
everything.
motion to move
I
this
second
forward,
it.
but
I don't think, I'm still not ready to vote on it. I understand Mr. Kennard's concern and wants an answer. Okay?
It's sending it to peer review. It's not approving anything, except
Yeah,
for
but-
peer review looks at it.
Well, peer review is gonna look at it, but I still need your,
He wants to
he
know.
wants to
what-
limit to these waivers, which are, Peter, you said, no, you're not gonna waive granite anymore, and he's asking for a granite waiver, so if you can't,
Well, that's just me and one. It doesn't have to be, we go through that, and there's 5 of us here. I say no to the granite, because I buried my heels in this. I'm sorry, I just have. That's how I am. It's hard to go back and well, regardless.
There's important waivers and there's not important waivers.
Okay.
Okay?
That one in particular, because I look at it the very long term of the town, that's something we're not gonna have to replace in another 10 years. So that's my opinion on that, but it doesn't mean that 5 of us say no to that, and that's the end of it all. I could be the only one that says no to the granite, and then 4 others say yes, or 3 others say yes to that in particular. Am I willing to give up one of the entranceways? I am willing to give one of those to you so we can get 6 affordable units in this project in particular, that one there. I would love to see a little bit more open space, but I'm looking at 6, double what we're asking. We're getting twice what we're asking. And I do think we need to change the bylaw.
Okay.
So there it is there. As far as the other things that are concerned, something to do with trees, not a big deal. If the town has no problem with the changing of the pipe, I don't have a problem with it. Ask the people that are qualified to do so. If they are, then that's that. The other one that was, again, for me, the big one is the curbs. I'm not giving in.
See, I disagree with you 100%. There's
Well,
easily.
then, that's what opinions are all for.
No, I get it.
So that's my opinion.
It's not
Done.
that he's asking to waive the curb, it's just a different material.
Mr. Chair, I made a motion in a second. Can we have a vote?
I don't,
Here to get a better feel.
Well, let's take a vote.
Eyeglasses to make one thing.
Repeat the motion, please.
To move with the waivers request and move this to peer review. The proposal before us to peer review, so we can get the technical and the engineering peer review.
I have no problem sending it to peer review, but Mr. Kennard has asked us to weigh in whether or not we're going to grant the waiver, so I think it behooves us to
And I made
decide.
the motion saying to grant the waiver, so take a vote, please. Just take a vote, and if you
Okay.
if I don't have the support, then we don't have to waste any more of their time or anybody
Okay,
else's time.
all those in favor of granting the waivers as, well, yeah, but you can't because there's so many different waivers. He's gonna say no, because he doesn't want to grant the waiver for granting curbing.
Well, look at it this way.
You have to do them one at a time that way.
Does anybody else wish to waive the waiver, waive it on granite curbs? Anyone else say no to it? Nobody else says no. Does anybody else say to the 2 means of egress? Who says no to that?
I have an issue with the 2 means of egress.
One, is you. Does anybody else?
I'm just saying no right now, in terms of
Well, there's a no.
saying yes to the
Right?
waivers.
There's,
We have 2 no's.
don't know what the 5th one will do.
Sorry to waste your time and money, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in.
Yep.
Wait a second, wait.
What? No, you just told them you're not gonna give it to them. I'm done wasting people's time and money. This is like a kangaroo court. All we're doing is telling people what we drafted and worked hard, and I stood on the town floor and got approved.
Please.
What? Oh, please what, Mark? I didn't stand on the town
We
floor and
both
get...
did. I did the year before
Yeah,
this.
and you
morning.
failed.
By 4 votes. But that's
You
not the
failed.
issue is,
Listen, what I'm saying is that we have something that can take care of the seniors. They're willing to pony up an extra 10%. That's 3 more units. That's a ton of money. That's units for our citizens. I don't know what else we can do. This is, honestly, we're a kangaroo court. We have lost our integrity. We drafted this, we did this, and now we're just gonna tell people, nope, you don't meet it, nope, it's not good enough. No matter what we do, it's not gonna be good enough. So you know what?
They're
Gentlemen, thank
asking-
you very much. And I look forward to seeing the 9 houses you build up there.
the difference is they're asking for a waiver from the subdivision control laws, not from the affordability or anything else like that. Okay? That's what the issue is right now. Is it enough to warrant?
I think 20% merits that exclusion for that double entrance.
And it's nothing new to waive that second entrance. I mean, it's been done all over town. The senior housing off of Shattuck Street. How many entrances does that have?
1.
So you have a public hearing open on the Jones Meadow. What are you going to
Do we
do?
want to make a motion to continue it? or-
I'd like to make a motion to continue it. I'd like to make a motion to bring it to peer review.
Who's gonna pay for peer review? They just left.
They just walked out the door. Well,
Well, it's up to them.
it's up to them. I'd like to,
Well,
So can you do September 13th?
move on. What's next?
Can I ask a question on this? What is the distance, Mark, from the back of the lot line to the property line?
500 feet, the back of the property.
No, from the bottom homes there to the lot line.
He's here,
Yeah.
10 feet.
What's the
They said it's
bylaw?
30 feet. And they said it's 30 feet. They said the trench is 6
What's
feet.
the bylaw say from the distance from the back of the property line to the property line?
Doesn't say from
It's a
property line.
structure.
It's
from the
structure.
Yeah, structure.
From the structure, it says 30 feet.
30 feet.
Yeah, they're all 30 feet.
So,
But property line matches another property line. Where the hell did you come up with that? And I
We
don't
got-
understand that.
I want, you know what, I want Jamie to be able to weigh in about the waivers and everything else. I want to continue it and send it out to peer review. So, we'll find out tomorrow if Mr. Kennard wants to continue going that way. In fairness, they have, I'll leave it at that. I'm not thrilled with it, I don't want to set precedent, but you can convince me that it's, I still have issues, okay?
Yeah. Mark, could I say a word?
Well, we're already moved on, Mr. Crowley.
I'll second
Could
your
I
motion.
make a comment on this before
Make
we close it up? Very important project.
We're done.
Motion to second.
All those in favor of continuing this to peer review, signify by saying aye.
continuing the public hearing to September 13th?
Yes.
To September 13th,
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Can I make a comment before we
No,
move on to the
we're
next
on-
one?
We've moved on.
In the essence of openness, could I make a comment?
Mr. Crowley, we've moved on. Let's develop the, go ahead, you want us to go ahead, Mr. Crowley, I owe you that, I guess. I owe you that.
Thank you, Chairman Montanari.
Quick
This
hand.
this is a very important project. As soon as we pass this bylaw, the next week, there were 7 contractors that were upstairs looking at our bylaw and looking at the pieces of land that were available. And the whole concept was to give us more affordable houses. Now, this would have given us, we could have gotten 6 out of this. And then the rest of those units, even though they would have been market value, you can't buy anything in Littleton now for under $600,000. These would have been selling for $400,000. So they were still much more affordable. There is no bottom rung of housing costs to get in. No one can get into that, into Littleton. Families couldn't afford $600,000-700,000, and that's what the houses are selling for. This whole project would have been in the 4s, and we've just lost. More than likely, you've just given up this great opportunity. Now, it's our bylaw. They had a right to build that number of houses on a single road.
Mr. Crowley, they don't have the right, that's where you miss it. Subdivision.
bylaws.
I've had enough.
They
I'm
don't have
going,
the
I'm
right.
done.
Next, we're
I'm
moving
done.
on.
Okay.
No.
Anything to be voted on, I'm done.
No, we still got stuff, Rick, Peter.
I know, I'm done.
That's very disappointing.
Okay, we have, we've continued Foster Street, we've continued Foster Street.
We didn't vote. We're just gonna- I'll make a motion to continue 245 Foster Street.
The 93 Foster Street,
I'm sorry, 93 Foster Street.
To the
Is it that
13th.
late? Wow.
I'll move. All in favor?
Aye.
245 Foster Street, move that to the 13th?
Make a motion, move 245 Foster Street to the 13th, continue public hearing. All in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
We have an 840 Mass Housing Grant, Foster Street, Taylor Street, commuter rail station area. Judy Barrett.
I'm here.
Okay.
Judy, it's very nice to see you. I'm glad you get to witness the debacle of our senior residential development bylaw.
It's all right, it's fine. Tension everywhere. 3 other towns today, everybody was saying the same thing, tension everywhere. Are you up for this tonight, or do you want me to come back another night?
Oh, we can start. Came all this way.
My computer up.
I apologize. I'm not a quitter. I'll stick it out.
That was kind of
Have a-
surprising, you never got a clear.
Well, I'm tired of the crap. Sorry, that's how I feel. I'm tired of this.
moved on from Foster Street?
Yeah, they've continued.
All right, that's great.
Thank you.
Are we done?
No, we got 840.
No, I, no, God, no. Not tonight, no, it's clearly not the night for that. No show and tell this evening.
Got it.
Have a seat, Anthony. Might as well. Oh, you can sit in the front row.
Plenty of seats there?
What?
There enough seats?
Okay, so, we got a chunk of change to start looking at the Foster Street, Taylor Street, rail station. How do we want to proceed?
I just wanted to come in and make sure everybody understands what you applied for.
Thank you, Judy.
Because
And also, I think to make sure I know what you want to call the study area. I mean, you had tried to sort of map that out, but, you know, let me just get into the details on this. You folks applied to do some planning work around the train station area because that was one of the master plan recommendations. And so the mass housing program became available and you guys were eligible for it. And Maren put together an application, I'm not sure who else was involved, but anyway, you put in an application and of course it was funded because the town has done a lot for housing. And what we decided to do, or what you may have decided to do, was to try to just get through the planning pieces first and decide if you really want to end up doing any sort of implementation of that. And if you do, then we deal with that later. But I need to, there's quite a bit that I am working, can work on kind of behind the scenes, knowing that really right now everybody's focus is Littleton Commons, so I'm trying to just defer to that and not get in the way and not be in anybody's face. But I do need to kind of get going on this because there are some expectations from mass housing that we're going to keep moving. So I just wanted to make sure I know what are we calling the study area for this project, so I can start to kind of do a market analysis for it and figure out kind of what might work out there and be able to come back and give you guys some options. There's a public participation piece in this, but we're not talking about launching that right now because everybody's kind of got their hands full with Littleton Common and other stuff going on for town meeting and so forth. And by the time you get through all that, then the public participation for this is really too late. It's just getting to be not the right weather. So we figured we would maybe try to do something on the public side in the spring when the weather is better. But meanwhile, there's these pieces to the project that need to be done around just a kind of analysis of the physical capacity of the area, what makes sense from a market point of view, what does the community want to see, perhaps in more detail than we had gotten into in the master plan and so forth. So I just wanted to find out where your heads were on all of this, given that there's a lot of other things going on in the community right now.
Okay.
But do you have the study area map? Can we put it up? Just because I need to know what we're looking at on this project.
Yeah, his
Study area.
last meeting, the July 12th meeting, you had looked at a draft map.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That
Super.
included some more additional residential areas, and so we bumped that back, took quite a few of those residential areas out. So this is the next one for you guys to shoot at.
If I could narrow it down even more, I'd say the number 3 on there would be the essential piece to study, number 3 in the contiguous pieces to it,
Okay.
heading south. That would be my first area of interest for study.
So you're
I think
thinking to
it's-
narrow it beyond the pieces that are on that map?
Yeah.
I see.
Not 11? I was thinking 11 as well.
11 and 3?
11's
Yeah.
nursing home.
Right.
11's a nursing home, I mean, it's,
You're
So
not
it
even-
already exists? I mean,
yeah,
there,
that's what I'm saying, this is the commuter rail train station, this is the Nordblum property, and this goes over, and this is the part of Durkee that is in the town area.
so life care takes up all of 11?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it really? Wow.
Well, when
They own it.
that, years ago when that was permitted, they were required to set aside that much open space for each bedroom that was in the nursing home. That was the bylaw at the time. It's not saying they don't have additional capacity there.
It just looks like a lot of
It
land.
is.
That's why I
It
was
does look like a
asking.
lot,
It is a
yeah,
lot,
yeah,
yeah.
it does. So are you thinking that you want to include that for potential?
Number 11? I
No.
don't want to include
No, okay, all right.
Well,
That's-
well,
this because it's just such a central piece to our town because of the commuter rail. And it's a parking nightmare, and there's an interested developer hoping to propose several things, but right now proposing additional parking and light industrial.
For
use.
which, for 3?
For 3. yeah.
Okay.
Right. One of the reasons I extended up Foster Street to Taylor was the underuse of the buildings along Foster Street.
So like 14-1 and 14? Is that what you're
2-2
thinking?
and 33 and the one unnamed in the corner there.
So when you're going
Down Foster Street?
down Foster Street,
Mhm.
Are you heading between 2-2 and 14?
The road goes right up to Taylor, right up here, so.
Because here's property right here.
Yeah.
Here's Taylor, right here. Here's the road between 22 and 33.
Right,
So the road is between 2-2 and 33, you said?
correct.
Okay.
So you're gonna do 3, 2-2, 33.
If we're gonna do 2-2, I'd include the one in the corner,
Yeah,
one to the left,
Yeah,
that one.
that one.
Because that's the 305 Foster.
Yeah.
So 305, 295, and,
Let's call it 1-1 for
yeah.
fit in there.
We don't wanna go 14, we wanna stop on, we don't wanna do anything on Taylor, right?
That's up to you.
Those are the
So
industrial-
3, just so I'm clear, 3 and then 2,
3, 2-2, 33, and we're going to call this 1-1. The vacant, or the unnamed piece.
okay. That is next to, between 2-2 and 3-3, you mean?
Yeah, right up
That
against
triangle is sort of like
495.
this? Okay, all right, I see that. Okay. But do we know, like, what any of the expectations are of the landowners out there? I mean, what's been the status of these properties?
So the number 3 property, developer has it under agreement and, or might even have had purchased it this time, I'm not sure. Either way, he has proposed a light industrial up on the Foster Street side of his property, and then some parking right along the commuter rail. 120 spaces, I forget, 100 and something spaces. Again, with a Littleton preference, but he did at one time come before us for a preliminary informal discussion for a senior residential development. In conversation, I think that he's had with Maren and with others, that we see a broader use for that property, and
Sure.
perhaps if he could be patient with us and we could figure out what would best fit
Sure.
our town overall,
Yeah.
then perhaps he could build something that would suit the whole town, not just the senior
Sure.
residential.
Sure,
So
sure.
he's been amenable. It's hard because it's expensive to hold on to, but
Yeah.
he's doing his best to work with us. So
So it's all right for me as I get into this to talk to these people? I
please,
mean, I'll go through you, but
please, yeah,
that would be
absolutely.
fine.
Please through the chair.
Too late now, I already told him, yeah, pretty please.
What do you want to get out of this study? What do you guys want?
First,
Go home.
no, first, honestly,
Yeah.
we need Foster Street to be rebuilt to suit, to make it safe and to,
That's, her study's not gonna do that.
why not?
Well,
Okay.
it's around housing more than anything else. I
Well,
mean,
Well, how do you access
No.
housing through it?
I wouldn't say it's
Well-
around housing more than
It's a mass
anything else.
housing grant,
because-
but it's
Well, it
it's
says
whatever we
grant
want.
funds are requested to help the town envision what a multi-income, multi-generational, mixed-use zoning district near the Littleton commuter rail station would look like in for Littleton. So you're right, it's not housing per se, but it's what would
It's
the
mixed. So,
district look like.
so mixed use in that area on number 3, you know, Foster Street is unsafe. It doesn't have sidewalks on either side. And
Yeah.
to make that property usable and to make a good mixed use out of that property over there, the road needs to be significantly improved. And I know that if you talk to most residents on Foster Street, they already have spoken, are not, in my conversations with them, and even here in public, are willing to give up some of their frontage and make it more of the right-of-way just to make the road safer.
Okay.
So we have a citizenry that's willing to work with our town.
Okay.
So if that was priority, that would be priority number 1 for me, was to make Foster Street safe. And from there, then you can access a mixed-use complex down by the commuter rail.
Yeah, I mean, there's no expectation on Mass Housing's part that somehow this is going to become a housing mecca out there. I do think that based on the wording of your own application, they're assuming it's going to be some type of mixed-use concept. You know, I'm not worried about that right now.
We need to
But I
slow
just-
down housing.
Yeah, I know, and I think that,
You're amazing.
no, let's just, also that. I know what your application said, I know what they responded to.
but it isn't like the town isn't doing anything about housing. So I'm not really worried about this. I just want to help you guys remember what you endorsed. Because very clear that your own support letter was anticipating a mix that included housing. So in fairness to the funding source, I think there's this expectation that somehow we're going to be looking at mixed use. I am not concerned about a mixed use bylaw that somehow turns us into a housing mecca. I think that you may want to at least be, aware of where housing might fit into something out there. But if it looks like industrial or non-residential development is going to get you a safer Foster Street and also do something for your employment base, I don't think anybody's going to argue about the merits of that, so.
Yeah, but knowing the area,
Yeah.
2-2 and 33,
Yeah.
5, it's all underused commercial space.
Yes,
currently,
yeah, I
business
know.
space, so.
Yeah, so part of what, the scope is this market analysis to figure out, well, what is that property actually marketable for? Because then I have to be able to say to you, look, these are sort of market-oriented possibilities. You don't like them, fine. But it means that the land may sit there for a while, and is that what you want?
Sat there for 40 years so far.
I understand.
It would be
I'm
nice,
just saying
it would be nice to see some more commercial component come in to alleviate some of the tax-based
Yeah,
pressure on the residents.
and maybe part of this is really about too, how do you perhaps improve the marketability of that land for some type of commercial development? It isn't just that it's either a yes or no, but it might be that if you had X, Y, or Z there, then all of a sudden this property becomes more palatable to a non-commercial development. So, I think those are the kind of questions that we could probably answer in this project.
I think we heard some of that before, over on 14, it was one of those parcels over there that was, I think it's the little one between 14 and 16, where, years ago, where there was the Homewood Suites that was proposed over there.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
they never built because, they were approved, but
They were
never
approved.
built because there was no retail in the area. There was no other
No draw,
amenities.
right.
Yeah,
bring back.
so it was a B site instead of an A site, and only the A sites were going to construction. So, having a little more information about
Sure,
what we could do.
that's fine.
So I really think that Lauren did a great job writing this in terms of what I think would be great to explore. So one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is the public education around whether a Chapter 40A, Chapter 40R, or friendly Chapter 40B would be best. And I know in your proposal you indicated options, but I wasn't quite sure, are you saying that you would foresee doing an option for each of those, kind of giving us a sense, or that we would then select one
Two.
of those?
Yeah.
Okay. I just
My
wasn't
job is
clear.
just to give you information so you can make a decision, so.
Got it.
Those are options, and none of them may be palatable, I don't know. But if you're going to do some type of mixed-use development, then I think the logical question is, so what's the best permitting vehicle
Yeah.
for you folks? And my role is to kind of lay out the pros and cons or trade-offs of each one.
Well, and I think in general, the education piece is huge, just simply because, just even within this room, we probably have some misconceptions about things. And so being able to really get everybody on the same page about what will happen if we bring in certain developments, I think would be really helpful. And we're going to continue down this path. And
Sure.
as my colleague Peter said, we're talking about housing again. Well, yeah, we have to figure out a way to talk about it that doesn't
Isn't quite so
scare
horrible.
everybody.
Yeah, right, okay. Sure.
The talk has been to revitalize Taylor Street. They want to see more activity down there. There's a lot of empty buildings, a lot of, there's no amenities down there. Not so much Foster Street. The people in Foster Street will tell you they have too much. The people in Taylor Street will tell you there's not enough.
And what kind of amenities do you
There's
mean,
no
Mark?
people on Foster Street, on Taylor Street, that's all.
It's all industrial. There's no place for them to go.
What kind of amenities do you mean?
They want to see a little bit of retail out there that will service the people that are there. I'm not saying gas stations and stuff like that, but I'm just saying they're looking for food. There's no food out there.
Yeah,
And
there's one
that's
or
not
two,
really a
like,
function of
office
yours because it is allowed. It just doesn't make sense to put it out there. because it's so distant, you're not gonna get regular traffic.
If you put on the corner of Foster and Taylor, gas station, bank, coffee shop, Boxborough and Route 2 would hammer that. It would be used. I definitely think so, yeah. Right on Boxborough,
Yeah, look
I
at
don't
that.
think you'd see.
I have a question. Is there allowed any kind of use of metering that would allow people to use Foster Street coming out of the train station to only head down Foster Street if they had a sticker, for example, giving them use, and anybody else not having it to perhaps have to pay a fee to use the street?
It's a policing detail, and it's so difficult.
We used to have a no left turn sign there 100 years ago. For some
Well, but it was gonna be an office
Yeah.
complex there.
They proposed no left turns.
I was just thinking about the Easy Pass system and how that's essentially what it does, right? You either have the pass or you don't, and you pay for it.
The town's gonna go for an easy pass system.
I think where it's a public street, I'm not sure you can do that. I'm not sure you have the authority to do that. I mean, I can look into it, but I'm not sure you do.
Highway's public, so.
I know, but it's not under your jurisdiction. That's the issue.
Just thought I'd mention it. I
Yeah.
saw it in DC this weekend, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a funny concept of home rule in Massachusetts. It's like, we have some, but not really.
All right, I think that's kind of where we're at with that.
Okay. So how do you want me to keep you posted on this project as it goes forward? I mean, I know there's a lot of other stuff going on in town right now. I can certainly put together a more detailed schedule on this and so forth, but I don't know where you want to fit into this. Do you want to get through town meeting and then start having, because I have other work I can do on this right now, so I'm happy to do that. But at some point, I gotta be able to start talking to you guys and saying, I need some direction here, so.
Well, we're not gonna be able to do anything for town meetings.
No, I know that, but I also know that when there's a town meeting coming up, people are busy with other stuff. I'm trying to get a sense of what your schedule looks like.
So are we your,
Sometime after May would be
are we your
good.
direct client?
I think so,
You're
well,
off.
I mean, like last time, your key contact was PJ and Mar, and so who were your key
I think it's
contacts
the
on this
planning
one?
board, isn't it? I think it's the planning board in this case. So it's this funny situation with these grants, because there's a contract with Mass Housing, which I have because I'm on their consultants list, but the project is for you, so I have to be able to help you, otherwise it's, not really fulfilling the purposes of the grant. So as far as I'm concerned, the client is here.
Could Maren receive a bi-weekly email from you, or even a monthly, before each meeting, to an update of what you've come up with?
Sure, I could give you like a monthly progress report,
Great.
especially if I'm gonna bill you. That's like be a good idea.
I mean,
I gotta go. My neck is killing me.
What happened to your neck?
I overworked it and pulled a muscle and something went really
Ouch.
bad.
Ouch.
So I've been, no, Richie, please no.
a monthly update, and
A monthly progress report is fine, I don't mind doing that.
Okay.
it'll be posted to the website once we get it, so the public can see it.
Right, and we have a, 2-year timeframe on this project, and Mass Housing was fine with,
I think so. I mean, I think Greg is kind of assuming it's done sometime in 2019. I don't think he's thinking 2020.
yeah.
I mean, for the pieces that are being
Right.
funded here. Because bear in mind, this is not going through to implementation because we didn't know what that was going to look like.
Right.
So we took that whole piece out.
Yeah, we have a lot on our plate right now.
I know
so,
you do,
yeah.
I know. And I'm trying to be sensitive to
No,
that.
and I get that, and I appreciate that.
Okay, all right.
Are we gonna take public input, Mr. Chairman?
Mr.
Martin?
Crowley, oh, absolutely. Since you've stayed up this late, what can we help you with?
Thank you, Chairman Montanari. Public input for the area down by the train station. Janet, it's good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I said that wrong, it's not
Sorry.
Janet.
Judy. That's right.
So,
People call me all kinds of things.
I think the best use for that land, south of the train station itself, would be to create an overlay that would allow for small houses that are no more than 11 to 1,500 square feet, some with or without garages. If it's a development, it's to be built in a grid system. The grid system should have 4 units on each corner, commercial, so that, but a light commercial. So you have a small grocery store, or dentist's office, or architect's office, or a lawyer's office. You'd have wide green areas between the street and the sidewalk for walkability. You'd have lots of trees. It would be, you'd have bikeways. And the idea there is to have a whole section of town that's got small houses that will cost less than McMansions, so that we have a different class of house in this town than a $500,000 to $700,000 house. And I think that the group that will occupy those places will be millennials and people who want to bike. And having it near the railroad station would be perfect for that. I think that the Nordblom property should have a mix of uses between apartment-style buildings to singles. With the first drawing that I saw had a commercial component up by the road. I think all of that works. I think there should be we should approach the developers for a bikeway that goes along the railroad corridor and along the 495 corridor. I know I've talked to the developer that's handling the Nordblom property, and he said he's very interested in donating a bikeway for the town. Now, I think the bikeway at minimum should be 25 feet wide enough so a rescue truck or a police car can go down it. I think that Foster Street, we could approach the DPW and have Foster Street made a one-way for one block. And that way, if somebody, it would protect the residents on Foster Street from this whole project. And if somebody really needed to get up Foster Street, they could cut through the housing project we have off of Grimes Lane. And that's it. I think that the commercial industrial buildings there, I think we should have a provision in there to make them over into apartment units so that people could have even loft-style apartments, like you find in town. People could take sections of those buildings and have them as apartments. I think, there's one building up there that's still for lease. So that means that area has had for lease signs as long as I've lived in this town, and almost as long as some of those buildings, as long as they've been built, they've had lease signs up front. So those buildings aren't going to be rented for offices. Their best use, and the best use for that area is residential, but small residential. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll be getting regular
What do you think,
updates.
Judy?
I don't know, I'm just getting into it, so I don't have any opinion right now. And it's
Okay.
probably just as well.
Okay, so
Thank you, Mark.
maybe we'll have you in towards the end of the
Let's
couple.
get through town meeting and I'll
Yeah.
come back. Maybe the beginning of, like, first meeting in November or something. I'll work on these other pieces. I'll get you monthly reports. I'll bill you. I gotta get a subcontractor on here anyway. I need a landscape architect on this. So whether it's Peter Flinker or somebody else, I'm not sure yet, but we need, just some physical planning work needs to be done. So I'll work on that.
Let's do the bills. Thank you.
You're welcome, dear.
So bills and payroll are coming around. We had 2 sets of minutes, one from July 12th and one from the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on July 23rd.
Move to accept those sets of board meeting notes.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
I mean, people would take
Don't drink it.
What was the reason for the increase in hours for
The tavern.
Miss Fairchild?
Because we're losing her.
She's leaving?
My son's birthday today, too.
What?
My middle son's birthday.
very, very much into that.
She's moving over to to Building Board of Health and Zoning Board of Appeals. So I figure, well, we would utilize her while she's here, and then it'll take a while to hire somebody else, but I know I have the budget for the year.
No pen. I need your pen. Z-man. Is that it? We're good? All right, so we're
Oh,
gonna
there are
wait.
more, I'm sorry.
So
Thank you.
when did we say, the 23rd?
Yes. I'll send out a reminder. Yes.
You. I got Roger mad at me.
Sorry, I'm gonna hang up to talk to you soon, but
Great.
I won't interfere with what.
No, we're all done.
Did you want me to give an MTIC update or not? Yes. And maybe Mr. Mullen has an update, PMBC or anybody else?
Nope.
So, Mark, did you want a master plan update from Anna?
Sure. Or do you want to wait till the next one?
It can wait till the next one.
Yeah, we're not wait. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're done for the day.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.